Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
An amazing event happened on planet Earth in the beautiful city of Beijing, China. The cosmic ray technology was shown for the first time to the public by the financial arm of Keshe Foundation, the American Mark Ray Corporation, which is traded on the US stock exchange. Mr. Keshe himself went to China to show creation of materials from the magnetic fields by using obsolete technology, or what we call rotating gas reactors with electric motors. He's using these old reactors as a starting point for humanity to slowly accept the evolution in science and technology. For 3 days straight, the reactors were run and shown live on Zoom so that anybody from around the world who wanted to could come in and see. Black particles like dust start appearing on the white paper sheets around the reactors. These particles are being created through the reactors and the fields of the universe and the inertia of our planet. They are not coming from the room. There were 4 sets of pairs of reactors with red and green gases spinning in them. We were told they were not CH3 and CuO, but something else. They were set up in a star formation on tables inside the front windows of the Intercontinental Hotel. Anybody passing on the street could see them. White papers and spoons were spread around the reactors to catch the materials being formed from the fields. Some knowledge seekers were able to capture on video when black specks suddenly appeared on the paper, like out of thin air. It was very interesting to witness when energy first appears in a matter state. As time went on and the fields built up and changed strength, the specks formed into bigger pieces and some elongated, and some changed color into gold. This is the first time the public has been able to freely witness the creation of matter from energy. At the end of 3 days, Mr. Keshe collected more particles and showed everyone attending. An interesting thing occurred. When he touched the black dust on the paper with his finger, it turned gold. He said it interacted with the fields of the inertia of the earth through his finger. This phenomenon was written about in ancient times when the Greek god Midas touched things and it was said they turned to gold. What we witness here is how everything in the universe is created, from ourselves to the planets and even cancer.
And welcome each and all to the Keshe American Knowledge Team, otherwise known as the University of the Universe. And it's not exclusive to the Keshe American Knowledge Team. It's also in the Brazil Knowledge Team, the French Knowledge Team, the German Knowledge Team, and the Chinese knowledge team, the Russian knowledge team. So it's the same knowledge that is trying to be spread that is used in the universe, or the way the creation process happens. So this is what we saw in the introduction video, the creation of materials using cosmic rays. And of course, it's not just gold that can be created, but copper and cotton and many other things, water and the rest, as we starting to understand that the energy is produced first, and then we see the manifestation of the matter state. And this is what humanity will start to understand in the coming time. We're going to cover a little bit of the 626 workshop today, and of course the announcements and the rest. And we've seen some more developments within the Keshe Foundation, especially the gameplay. I don't like to call it playing games, but I like the term gameplay. For me, that sounds a bit more professional than playing games. And of course, we're all used to playing games, and many of us do play games in different ways. But this is the game of peace and enlightenment that I'm referring to. Mr. Keshe indicated this is the biggest gift he could give humanity. And as I mentioned before the start of this program, this is your new one nation planet, a new community to interact with peaceful people. And of course, as time goes on, this is your new marketplace. There is a place to trade and buy and sell on this sort of virtual thing we're creating. Again, we're just creating the energy first. And of course, this will be your power company in the future. As he said, the One Nation Network needs to be plugged in now. But when the energy dimension is introduced through the cosmic ray antenna, we can unplug the One Nation Network and perhaps even order power for lighting for our own homes, or power to run other things. And this will be your new supermarket as well. Again, you don't physically get the apple, but you'll be delivered through the energy dimension of using the cosmic rays, the energy of that apple. This will become, this game of peace and enlightenment will become your new travel agent. As I say, when he introduces the cosmic ray technology, I think we'll start to experience a real dream, perhaps even walking out in a full transmutation. And as Al said before we started, perhaps this will get extended once we start transmuting around this planet virtually, or the full transmutation. This will be extended into the solar system and then in the galaxy. So we're in a way getting time to practice this whole understanding, and the energy dimension will be introduced in the very soon coming period as I see it. But again, we don't know everything. So welcome everyone to as he said, we're creating a new science in a way, not new, the universe uses it, a new ethos and a new language. And I think this is on this planet. And of course, this is the language of giving and loving and sharing and supporting and serving. So this is the new language. And again, I think some of these qualities get instilled or embedded as you play this very simple game. And of course, they're going to make it a little bit more exciting. But before we go into the game, and before we go into the workshop, and before we go any further, let's just bring up our World Peace Treaty. It's something that you can start to work on between you and yourself. As Mr. Keshe said, it's finding peace within yourself first, not the others. And then by having that peace within yourself, you can, I think they'll start to feel, rather than you saying how peaceful you are and the ways you're peaceful, but just start to feel a peaceful soul in a way. And this game is part of this, and this World Peace Treaty is something that can, in a way, start the process if you've never considered world peace. And of course, if it's your wish to see world peace, this is one of the starting points of this. And of course, we're awakening the collective awareness of souls to start moving in this direction of wishing for peace in a way. We're not, I'm certainly not an angel or 100% peaceful, but that was my wish, to move closer in this direction. So this is the start of a reactor, again, between you and your soul. And this is just a piece of paper in a way, but I think it's a type of reactor that you can actually display and show. And again, all about yourself, no, not so much about the others. And when you become peaceful, then you'll be able to show that in a way, or others will be able to feel that within you, maybe by your behavior and by your emotions. And that's what we're doing, creating a peaceful man out of the man. And actually, the man is doing it himself. As he said, this game will embed that peace and enlightenment within you. We talked about compression technology, I think, in the previous workshop, and he said that knowledge and other knowledges will be embedded into the game. So you may see it as simple, just the way some of the products that we see in the Keshe Foundation store are a simple cup of sweet or sugar or pressure. Just by drinking the water out of that cup can make a huge change. This is, again, beyond the understanding of the man, how fields can actually move and so on. So this is our World Peace Treaty, and this is part of the new ethos where we're here to serve. That's on the edge of the Keshe coin, not to be served. But it's up to you to sign it with a pen or sign it with the pen of your soul. The physicality doesn't matter, but it's your intention to become more peaceful, and that peacefulness brings enlightenment. And of course, I believe it brings you closer to the Creator. As we know, the Creator exists and operates without killing or destroying anything. And if we can get to that point, and we're certainly getting help to reach that point, we start to mimic in the behavior and the emotions more and more of the Creator. This is just the way I see it and what it means to me. Anyone else would like to share something about the World Peace Treaty before we actually read it? If you love peace and enlightenment and love, open your mic. Okay, we're going to read the World Peace Treaty. This gets us all, in a way, on the same page or thinking about this. Would anyone like to read the World Peace Treaty? Okay, I'll read it. We, as citizens of the earth, from this moment on, accept to lay down all tools of aggression and war. We shall never think about getting involved or incite war or develop or use any tools of war on this planet or in space. And to this we all agree and swear with our, and you can delete as appropriate, our nation, our territory, our council, our religion, our city, our town, our body, and our souls. Simply put your name, signature, date. And again, you think this is just a little piece of paper. How could this start any sort of process? On behalf of, again, the nation, the territory, the council, the religion, the city, the town, or as an individual. Have it witnessed. And of course, after signing this treaty, be proud to display this certificate wherever you consider being important to you. That everyone can see and know your ethos to fellow men and the mankind and other created beauties of the Creator. So it's available on all of the search engines, the Keshe World Peace Treaty. And as usual, there's much more embedded in this. And as we like to say, and Alex has brought up about this loosh harvesting, how about the first sentence, the moment on accept to lay down all tools of aggression and war. And we know that loosh harvesting, that maybe you're not physically engaging with another person, but you're certainly playing with their energies in a way. And this is where we're trying to become more peaceful in our thinking, in our speaking, and of course, in our doing. Nobody's an angel, as I said, but we're trying to move in that direction and put less souls, let's say, in our knapsack that we have to carry because of our, let's say, wrongdoings or our misbehaviors at this point. I know we don't fully understand that, but this is the process, and maybe as we continue on, you'll be adding less and less actual souls, but still using the fields. As Mr. Keshe said, we can use the fields before they're made into a soul, or what we call the love of creation. That once the fields have done their work and interacted in creating a soul, that soul becomes sacrosanct in a way, and we have respect for all souls. And this is part of reaching that 99th or that 100th name of God, where you see everything else as equal to yourself. Again, want to be impartial. This is just my understanding and the way I've interpreted what I've been studying and investigating. Anyone else want to say anything about the World Peace Treaty? This is the document the world leaders will sign, whether, again, they sign it with a pen or they sign it with the pen of their soul. And of course, we're helping souls in need when we create this peace dome. And we know that they need the help, and this is all part of the process of giving and receiving, or taking and giving. As we know, we collect resources first in the game of peace and enlightenment, and then we can give them to ourselves or other entities or countries or souls of countries. So this is the whole process that you'll learn. And as Mr. Keshe said, if you wait for the final bell or the final call before you start to investigate this knowledge, and you end up in the universe or in some sort of position, you're going to have a lot to learn if you wait until you get there. So we're sort of getting a briefing or a pre-briefing on how to approach this. But again, it's all up to you and your interactions. We're all the same reactors, but yet at the same time, only I think you can trigger your particular system, and I can trigger my particular system, but I can't interfere with your work. And I don't think you can interfere with my work, although we did hear quite an explanation about the twin souls. And yes, they can have an effect on you, and apparently you can have an effect on them. Maybe we'll cover a little bit about that in the teaching that we're covering today. But I thought usually we go to the announcements, and this is what Mr. Keshe is bringing. And of course, we have a Keshe Foundation store that many of the products that are made by the professor and are overseen are offered in the store. And as he said, some of the new products coming out are the new beads that you just wear, like a monk beads or a rosary as a bracelet. And apparently they can handle the problem of sweetness, if we could put it that way. Not meaning you're not sweet enough, but we're talking about sugar. And we know what that is, this diabetic condition. And of course, he talked about a new pain pen coming out. Again, a clear, I think it is, probably somehow embedded with the resins. The pillows are on sale and want to be moved out. So if you go to the Keshe Foundation store, this is where, let's just see if we can show people. And we'll put all these links in the chat later on. We were looking at the wallet earlier, because this game of peace and enlightenment, again, the biggest gift Mr. Keshe could give humanity, was delivered. And this is part of the One Nation Network, what we call the game of peace and enlightenment. And here is the game. I've been playing it for a while. And of course, as he said, certain technologies will be embedded. It looks simple. This is what he said about the Cup of Life 1. He said it looks simple because we said it that way, but it would take man a number of centuries to understand what's going on in this cup. And perhaps the game is even reaching that sort of level of delivering, but yet not with the full understanding. But as we play this game, peace and enlightenment will become embedded in the players. As Mr. Keshe said, only men of peace will play this game. But this will become, again, our new sort of town square, our new community, our new supermarket, our new wellness center, and of course our new banking system. And the structure is being all set up with inventory and other things. Again, this is all internal at this point to the Keshe Foundation. We show the wallet and we show the, let's just go back to the store. And you will need, right now this game is in its beta test phase. And I guess that's when they test and try to perfect something. And many companies go through this with their products. Doesn't matter, I think, what they're making. They do have some beta testing where they sort of give it to the public, and maybe the public finds out certain things that even developers weren't aware of. But you'll need March 21st, I believe this game, if it's ready, becomes an official game. And at that point, to enter into this game, you will need, at minimum, a Keshe Coin ID wallet, because this is where your resources will be stored, your Keshe coins, perhaps some of the energy drinks or books of wisdom. And of course, there's 2 pop-out menus on this game. And there's different versions, as Alex was saying before we started. This will get quite crowded if 9 billion people. So I have us.getplasma.org. And maybe there'll be some sort of way to communicate, or it'll just start within nations and then expand. I'm not sure how the whole workings are going to come, but as Mr. Keshe said, give us some time. Many developers spend millions and millions of dollars developing games like this. But again, this has a far-reaching implications for our peacefulness, for our enlightenment, and for understanding this universal knowledge, as knowledge will be transferred through gameplay, as I understand it. Does anyone have any questions about this biggest gift the foundation could give humanity? You can come forward. And again, we're just learning about it, and we're not sharing too much about the game. As he mentioned, I think in the last workshop, teaching someone to do something is not enlightenment. But of course, that's the way I like to learn things. I don't want to investigate it myself. I'd much rather have someone tell me what to do sometimes, because I just don't want to take the time to research and investigate. But he said that teaching someone to do something is not enlightenment. And I thought that is quite a profound statement. We think that's the best thing, you teach someone, but maybe by allowing them to enlighten themselves gives them confidence. And this is the way Mr. Keshe is approaching this idea of enlightenment. But it'll get transferred through you in this gameplay. And of course, one of the first things you need to do is visit 195 countries, which is, again, it's like the solar system. Sometimes, certain decades, there's more countries. At certain decades, there's less countries. And the same with the planets in the solar system. Sometimes we have 9 or 10, and sometimes we have 8 or 9, perhaps. I don't know. Everything is changing. But there's much more here. As I said, here's your marketplace where you'll be able to trade, again, even from currency, all within, again, this is a virtual game at this point, but it's real as a way. As I said earlier, it's almost like the 2 cells of the egg and the sperm coming together. This is just in its infancy. And of course, you can check your inventory. These are energy drinks, and these are books of, or these are the books here of wisdom, a new word entered into the vocabulary. And of course, this is the book of meditation. And these are your energy drinks. And I think these are to regenerate your energy faster. Remember, energy is your stamina. Without energy, you don't move anywhere, whether you're flying in a plane, which is one of your choices to do, or whether you're transmuting in this game. And of course, there's different ways to do different things. So we're learning. And of course, there is a chat here within the game. You may want to ask someone something or ask someone to join you in a certain position. There's different symbols that come up, such as antennas or PMUs, which is a pick-me-up here, or other things that come up. I think they call it 2 times regen or 1 times regen or a large regen. It comes up as 2 times, and there's like a red circle with a bigger circle swinging back and forth. But as someone said to Mr. Keshe, this game is not too exciting, and the children may not take to it that well. But one of the things I think children will take to is that you can earn. We pay you to play the game, but he's emphasized don't play for money. But again, using the greed of the man to get him involved in something is, Mr. Keshe has done this many times, and I think he said will continue to do it. So by playing this game, you can earn up to €2,000 per month, which is the equivalent of $2,400. But you can only spend it within the store at this point in time, or you may be able to trade it with other people in the marketplace. I don't know. But this is what I'm seeing. As you build up resources, you can use some of those resources to perhaps provide you a wellness, perhaps provide you some food or some travel or some other things you may want to do, or other things that are going to be added into this game. But it's a beautiful start, again, in its infancy, and we're just helping to develop it. So in the United States, us.getplasma.org is the one I'm on, I guess. And anyone want to add anything about the game? Have they found it easy? I've run out of energy last week. Because these little beacons came up, I was able to donate to about 4 different locations. Each country needs about 150 energy drinks, plus they need some 150 books of wisdom, or 150 books, or combination of both, of meditation or wisdom. So I was able to close 2 or 3 or 4 beacons, and some of them partially. But in that process, I ran out of plasmas. And I wasn't able, even though I was clicking on treasure chests like this. Let's just click on this treasure chest. This is Gambia. And that's where one of the people lives that comes into the reactor group, I think, Hassan. He lives in Gambia. So it asks, do I want to travel by a plane or a transmutation? I'm going to pick transmutation. It's much quicker. I've landed in Gambia. And of course, this is giving you a beautiful geography lesson as well, understanding a little bit about the climate and the rest. And some of these countries are 90% desert, and I think Algeria is like that, perhaps some of the other ones. Okay, so I've arrived, but I can't move, as you can see here. I've arrived instantaneously within 2 seconds by using transmutation that used one of my plasmas. And I have a minute and 25 seconds before I can move to another location. But you can claim the resources immediately upon arrival once this is checked. So let's just see what's in this treasure chest. And again, there were no plasmas. So I've gotten some secret rolls, which gets added up here. And I've gotten a bit of a Keshe coin, which is probably a millionth of a penny. This is only for gameplay in a way. Okay, so now at this location in Gambia, they've given me a second treasure chest. Let's click on this and see what I've gotten. No plasmas, but I've gotten a number of secret rolls, which will be used in advanced gameplay. And also I've gotten some Keshe coins, which again, your Keshe coins are part of what you would use to order that particular apple. Okay, all of the treasure chests have not disappeared. This is the 3rd one in Gambia. I'm going to have to tell Hassan how rich they are in Gambia. They've given me 3 treasure chests. But again, no plasmas in any of those 3 treasure chests. This time I've got a few secret rolls, and I've got a few Keshe coins, which again, some of this will get transferred into the play. And then, to get a little bit of a feel, you can open up this wiki even bigger. I guess this is the standard wiki which you'd find on the internet. But in this game, it gives you a small blurb, a few sentences, sometimes more. The Gambia, officially the Republic of the Gambia, is a country in West Africa. Geographically, the Gambia is the smallest country in continental Africa. It is surrounded by Senegal on all sides, except for the western part, which is bordered by the Atlantic Ocean. So it's, in a way, giving you a feel of this planet. And I certainly could identify Gambia on a map now, because it has a unique, let me just move over to Brazil and see if we can get rid of this. All right, we probably have to travel somewhere. But just to show you the unique signature of Gambia, if we can, let's just see here. It sort of almost looks like, and again, I want this to clear, but it sort of has a elongated, almost like a peninsula going into the surrounding country that surrounds it in a way. And it has a border on the ocean. So I could pick that out on the map. I could name it, and I know a little bit about it, let's say. And as you continue to travel to these countries, and sometimes I read the blurb and sometimes I don't. because I've read it before, but I haven't fully understood it. So it gives you a feel of the topography of the location, sometimes the population, the square kilometers. And I've been comparing it to see the density of where I am in Connecticut and how many square kilometers in the population. And I can kind of tell if some of these countries are more densely populated than where I am or more sparsely populated. And of course, you get to see the flag of the country, which is very interesting. I noticed many, many countries across the world have a five-pointed star. Not all of them, of course, and probably not even half of them, but many, many of them use this star, this five-pointed star, so on, in their flags. So I think what we're seeing here, the countries will still exist, and in this game, it becomes your new community. This game becomes your one nation network, as I said. Again, your new community, your new banking system, your new power company, your new wellness center, and your new travel agent, and probably much more that I haven't even thought of, as well as the marketplace. So you wanted peace, you wanted a one nation network where only peaceful people engage. Maybe they're not all peaceful, none of us are angels, but this is where you'll find that sort of interaction, sharing and coordinating with others who have the same ethos. So now I've traveled to Peru. We're going to claim that treasure chest. And again, I went through 4 treasure chests in this demonstration, and there's been no plasmas. I've gotten some coin, and I've gotten some rolls, again, for advanced gameplay, but no plasmas. Okay, so this location is giving me 1 energy drink. Let's claim that. And again, as you claim these resources, this goes into what we call your inventory. So every time you click on something, it gets added, whether it's an energy drink, a regen, a book of wisdom, or a book of meditation. So that gets added. And again, I can use the energy for myself. You see here, this is kind of your gas gauge in a way, because you do need energy to collect those resources. So there's a second treasure chest here. Let's just click on it. And again, this is very simple. And again, I don't have any plasmas, but I got 850 secret rolls plus 850 plus, again, about a millionth of a penny or something like that, whatever it is. It's very small. And there's a third treasure chest. And this is part of the fun part. Again, no plasmas, just 2 whatever ACC of a Keshe coin and 565 secret rolls. So we'll click on that again. And then now, and here's the sort of a small description. Peru, officially the republic, and most countries are. Some are kingdoms and other things. In Western South America, bordered north by Ecuador and Colombia, to the east, Brazil to the south. So it gives you a feel of the planet. And again, it's shrinking down for me. So it gives you some beautiful topography, population, what they may do in the country. And I think as you're familiar with the location, you'll be able to transmute to it. And you'll know a little bit about perhaps the capital. And as I said, maybe go into the real dream where you actually see the center of Kinshasa, or perhaps you've gotten a glimpse of Beijing for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, where you thought you were there and maybe you were in this real dream. This is what I'm seeing. But right now, it's just in its infancy, and we're all welcome to start to play it and start to see what comes out of this. And it's a much deeper process than we realize. But an opportunity, and it's being created. And as I said, as jokingly, hopefully the developers don't pull all their hair out. But as we know from some of the knowledge seekers, there's a solution for hair as well, color and growth. And we may even see that in this game. Imagine if they have some sort of store where you can actually change the color of your hair through the cosmic ray technology. And again, this is not beyond the imagination of us, because we've already heard testimonies to that extent. So there's a lot to be added to this game. And again, I think people will start to move away. You'll still operate in the conventional system. You'll still go to work, or you'll still go perhaps to the supermarket for some supplies, but that will become less and less the more we can work with the energy. And this will be part of this whole operation. So this is the one planet, one nation, one race for world peace, as I see it. Anyone else have any ideas on the game of peace and enlightenment before we go to the announcements? It's not against the law to play this game, is it? Just kidding. All right, if there's no comments on this game, hopefully you've taken it all up, or starting to. This is what Mr. Keshe is promoting. This is what Mr. Keshe is encouraging. And this is what Mr. Keshe said is the biggest gift to humanity. You want to leave it off to the side or not want to interact, that's totally, you're the captain of your own ship. Or this is too simple, or this is too stupid, or I didn't get anything out of this. And, that's up to you. You have to sort of work it out. But there's many hidden technologies that will be or already are embedded within this game. And you'll be able to shop in the store, I think, and to use some of your coin to perhaps buy the item in the store. But you won't get the actual item. You'll get the energy of that item delivered through the cosmic rays. Does that sound feasible or possible to anyone? That through the cosmic rays you could actually get the taste and the energy of one apple? And again, this moves us away from killing and destroying an apple that has a soul, and for some reason the creator doesn't eat that apple. And if we're made in the image of the creator, we can move in the same direction. And if we understand this energy, then we can go anywhere in the universe and create whatever we'd like. I was just thinking, Alex was saying about maybe the solar system will be added. Again, do you want to travel to the moon? Yes. How do you want to appear on the moon? As a man or as a entity with 100 legs and one eye? And maybe that will teach us a little bit. But as Gail said, she wants to go in the dome. And this is what Mr. Keshe said. Why not just create domes? And we can be anywhere in the shape of the man, even though the conditions on the planet are different. Of course, you won't know the true structure of that location and its inhabitants, because unless you go outside of the dome, you'll never know what it's like to exist and function as a different entity with the same soul on this planet. Any other thoughts? Anyone excited about the game? And of course, every day you can take what's known as a simple quiz or the daily quiz. Now, with the daily quiz, this adds to your knowledge. You can also add to this knowledge by taking your inventory and using books of wisdom, I believe it is. So if I was to use a few of my books of wisdom, my knowledge would increase. And as you can see, as you play these quizzes, you get about 0.2%. And we'll just go through this quiz. This is what it looks like. What happens after you arrive in a country and become eligible? Very simple. You can almost know nothing and have a chance to get ace the test because it's multiple choice. And you see the claim mint color knowledge of that country. You can claim mint color knowledge for that country. And these are the basic questions. And I got a couple of them wrong. I put 2 tokens and no, I put unlimited, but here it says it's 2 tokens. It gives you the answer. And then you submit it. And of course, there's going to be many questions coming out of the Knowledge Seekers Workshop. I think they're loading up 1,000 questions. So this is where the enlightenment, I think, or part of enlightenment will come in the matter state in a way. So here, blank is 1, but in a way, it consists of 2, or maybe even through division, it can become 4 or 5 when they reach a balance. And of course, the options are Iranian administration, universal community, but plasma science or the soul. I chose the soul and I got it right. The soul is one, but in a way it consists of two, or maybe even through division, it can become four or five. And as we know, you can be in two locations or more. I think some of the ancient Greeks or other philosophers have been reported to be in two locations at the same time. And of course, the creator is in millions or trillions of places simultaneously as being in his current location. So these are some of the things that's opening up. Again, this knowledge is beyond man's understanding or the scientific community. And this is, of course, what Mr. Keshe is moving to get the scientific community to move more out of the matter state and into the energy and understanding that. That way, if we can play with energy fields, it's unlimited. You can create anything you'd like. But yet, man hasn't really gotten that full knowledge yet. Although we do it within our own structure, that's for sure. We can create conditions which leads to our demise, or perhaps we can create other conditions through our emotions which leads to our enlightenment or extension of existence if you choose to. I think it can work both ways. So those are just a few facets of the game. Again, it'll change quite a lot, as Mr. Keshe said, once we go into the full gameplay. But it's beautiful. This is what's designed to bring peace and enlightenment to this planet. And of course, Keshe coins will be given to different governments. And as their troops, which I find it very hard to see how troops would want to play a game of peace and enlightenment, some of their revenue, again, the government may see their military as just resources going out for guns, for bullets, for weapons, for training. Here, by having the troops play or ordered to play the game of peace and enlightenment, it can actually increase the government's coffers, as I understand it. So maybe governments, especially the ones that don't have resources, may require or ask their military to play this game periodically, which they'll become more peaceful. And of course, the government will be enhanced a little bit on their balance sheet, let's say. And there's much more to it, as Mr. Keshe said. This will lead into loaning to other companies instead of the IMF or the World Bank type of program. But that's probably way down the road. So again, these are the little pop-out screens you can use to play. And again, it looks simple, but as I said, he made the Cup of Life look simple too. He said because we said it that way, but it had quite a powerful effect if you said it the way Mr. Keshe said it. And that's what he encouraged. He said, said it exactly the way I said it. And how many people had success with that, dealing with that energy pack. And even to the point where the energy pack was weakened. And though that weakened energy, it wasn't destroyed, it was just weakened. And that weakened energy became actually food within your structure as energy, as I understand it. So again, we haven't fully understood our own structure or the process of creation, but gradually, slowly, collectively, we're all being brought into the process if you want to be a peaceful man. So that's who's going to be playing the game. And the others will come along when they see how easy it is to keep the money in their pocket, but at the same time, get some of the things perhaps they need. I know a lot of people have water tanks on their homes, on the roofs and things. And maybe you've come into a dry season, and through the cosmic ray, you can, and through the coins you've earned in this game, perhaps you could even fill up your water tank. This is what he said about the Ubisoft when it was being produced in China. And he said if they didn't want to ship it, we have the ability to transmute that unit right to people's doorsteps. Of course, they didn't do it. The unit was made into something more portable, but he told Amazon to watch out because they have the ability to transmute from manufacture to your doorstep. And this will come into play perhaps in the future. And this is the way we'll move across the planet, I believe. First in a virtual reality type of thing. And later on, as we gain the confidence, and that's what the workshop was about, understanding how our structure works. And this is what Mr. Keshe said, if you understand your structure and how to create those energies, you can transmute. But we haven't reached that full understanding of creating correct and connecting correctly. Anyone want to add anything? I see Mosfek is here. You're one of the experts playing the game, or Mosfek was here, but maybe he's not here now. Okay. Would anyone like to share anything about the game of peace and enlightenment? What do you mean you've never heard of the game of peace and enlightenment? And I was thinking, I remember listening to someone, and they were saying if you want to, increase your business, what he used to do is just take 10 business cards every day and either hand them to someone or just leave them in certain places that someone would pick that up. I was thinking we could create a 5x7 card showing a little bit more about the game and a little bit of its explanation, maybe after the 21st of March. And especially when children hear that they can play and earn money. This again, I think, Carolyn, you told us that you need to be 18 years old to have a wallet. And as Mr. Keshe said, with this game, with this wallet, here's your wallet, which costs 99 euro. It was 30. They raised the price, I think, plus the value added tax. But if a 10-year-old wants to play the game and you have the wallet, I think you could be earning coins. I don't think that would be a problem, or earning or learning to play the game. And up to 2,000 or 2 coins per month in the Keshe coin, internal to the Keshe Foundation at this point, but in the future will be extended to every other crypto, will probably be consumed or subsumed within this coin. And of course, this coin and the rest is backed by gold. We mine it as we need it. And what you saw in the introductory video is part of a technology that Mr. Keshe, an obsolete technology that Mr. Keshe has demonstrated privately to the Chinese leaders and Chinese military, and is willing to, again, show other countries this work. Maybe not give them the understanding of the technology, but allow them to make copper. He even talked about getting a printing system now where if you're making copper cups, you can print copper cups right out of the fields of the, what they call those 3D printing. And of course, it'll be extended industrially as well, where you're making copper cups, you have no copper inventory, but through the interaction of the fields within the system, all of a sudden a pure copper cup comes out, not mined from the, or stolen from the planet, but actually mined out of the pure fields of the universe. And this is the way I think it'll approach the water, the cotton, the copper, the diamonds, and all these other matter state things. It'll be offered to you, or you can purchase it through the store. So let's go to the announcements, which are about 16 minutes this week. Again, it's about connecting and learning how to connect. And as he said, if you understand your own structure, you should be transmuting. But man hasn't reached that point yet. And that's what these, if I can go back to the store for a minute, that's what these monthly sessions are, cosmic ray transmission. And just to bring it up, again, as we hear in the video, this is about keeping the Keshe Foundation free to develop for humanity and not tying their hands with research that will be tied up, as we discussed earlier, about Alberta and the rest of these things where, again, they can block it by keeping it tied up in court and sort of the rest of these things. So we want to be able to allow the foundation, and as guinea pigs, yes, you pay to be part of this, and really it's a gift to humanity. You may not understand it more, but certainly what happens in the background is needed and is helping the Keshe Foundation to develop more fully and more complete understanding. The team, I think Mr. Keshe has it, but the team needs to understand more. And they're probably learning as well. Even the creator, as we understand, is still learning about its creation. So any thoughts from anyone before we go to the announcements in the 626? Okay, good. Let's just make sure our volume is there. I'm not sure. I think this is Rick just introducing it. And then we can go back to the teaching if we have time. I think this is 15 or 16 minutes long. And it shows the some of the offerings for Valentine's. I think some of the heart shapes and other things, which again, made under the watchful eye of the professor, and the beads as well, all overseen and tested. It's just not something that they just throw out into the marketplace without any test. As Mr. Keshe said, I test everything on myself first before you lot get it. And apparently these beads, and I don't know much about this diabetic condition, but maybe we can learn more in a discussion later. I know there's type 1 and type 2, but in my state of Connecticut, a very small state, this is the #1 reasons for loss of limbs or amputations in my state is the diabetic condition. And apparently this can be touched and improved or balanced or whatever. I haven't dealt with diabetic and I'm not close to anyone who has, so I don't know a lot about it. But just by wearing a device, and I think you'll hear Mr. Keshe describe it, or even producing a toy for a child, and this will create interaction of fields. Again, he's not letting the cat out of the bag. He's keeping the technology within the Keshe Foundation. Otherwise, he wouldn't grow this Mark Ray Corporation. And again, I'll just show this, and we'll put this in the chat later. This is the home of the cosmic ray technology, and you can kind of investigate and see many of the applications: food and nutrition, energy, wellness and health, transmutation. And of course, this company, the Mark Ray, will have a twin in China, the Chinese Mark Ray, but it also is offered on the stock market as well. And I think, again, this company is just sort of sorting it out. But this is the home of cosmic ray technology. As Mr. Keshe said, the Keshe Foundation, which this is part of in a way, it's separate but connected. And this is what you saw in the intro video using cosmic ray technologies. And again, he called them creator rays. If you know how to play, you can create anything you'd like through this technology. But we haven't gotten that knowledge yet, even though we're gaining an understanding of it. So we'll put this in the chat as well. You can actually purchase shares on the stock market. And of course, Mr. Keshe made a joke. He said, we're selling the knowledge of God in the stock market, but this is the way he said it's done on this planet. So we go along with it. But this, again, is Mark Ray is in its infancy as far as value as I see it. And it's slated to be equal to the cosmic ray material and the Keshe coin, which are both at 1,000 euro, while this penny stock is just at 6 or 5 or 8 or 4 cents as it bounces up and down in this period. So let's go to the workshops announcements and see where Mr. Keshe is focusing his direction this week. Any thoughts? Shall we look at the transcript as we do this? Sometimes that helps. Here's part 2. Okay, and I'm just going to bring this screen so I can control it, and you'll have a full view of the transcript. Any thoughts, comments, questions? All right, we continue. And of course, feel free to stop it to add your understanding or maybe others' understanding as well, and so on, that you can tell us how you've been enlightened, or others can share how they've thought perhaps, or maybe they've been touched in different ways.
I expect Mr. Keshe will have a few things to say before we begin, but I'll just mention to him that I do have about 40 images ready to be viewed here when you are ready.
Can you show me, because I'm sure I'm going to see it for the first time.
Okay. So let me get my desktop set up a little differently here. Okay, these are from the Keshe Foundation store, and it has to do with Valentine's Day and Easter and Mother's Day. So the first image I have is a Happy Easter image. We have another. I think I'll have to do this differently. Maybe. So I'm assuming these products are also embedded with.
We cannot see them. We cannot see them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing my. Oh, okay. See. Let's see. I've got the wrong desktop here.
I do the same thing.
Okay.
I'm not sharing. These are beautiful
You'll
eggs.
see that now. And let me get.
Yes. These are.
And as Mr. Keshe is saying, you can just put these or spread these around the home. You have somebody's not balanced, or maybe your sister and her husband are arguing a lot and she doesn't know what to do, even though they're going to counseling. It doesn't seem to be working, but just put these innocuous items around the home and perhaps you may see the difference, whether they're aware of it or not. This is how energy is transferred. And of course, as I said, they're made under the observation of the professor. So they're made correctly and they're set to do what they're set to do. As Mr. Keshe said at one point, which I thought was odd, where he said putting CO2 and zinc together and doing, he said that's the worst thing you can do. Knowledge seekers haven't understood the knowledge, which it seems strange to me to say that, but I can find it where he did say it. It's the worst thing you can do. So now we see it made correctly here. And again, they're functional for decades, probably, or even longer.
Cosmic ray, what we call materials, which we have launched as packages before in different, what we call occasions. And now we are releasing these on a, what we call continuous basis. These are all what we call resin product for different occasions which is coming up. They'll be priced in the next day or so, hopefully, and then you should be able to purchase it directly. We do not do the what we call the packages as we used to do, like a Christmas and a New Year packages. These are individual pieces, and if you go through all of them, and then you can see what it is. And it's per occasion. You can what you call order per piece.
Gee, it looks like they made the remember when they had that term, see no evil, speak no evil? And this one looks like he's blocking the ears, I guess, hear no evil, something along that line. Remember that? Well, isn't that very much the same as thinking, speaking, and acting good? Perhaps these three kind of go together, because I don't see no evil, I don't speak no evil, I'm not hearing any evil, or maybe that's the thinking part. Anyone see that? I just picked up on that. If it's close.
And as we did it in 500 and 250 and 1,000 packages, this way every individual person can choose. They are made of different mixture of what we call cosmic ray and gases. And it's a new, what we call a structure, which goes with this one.
And remember, this company we were talking about, Mark Ray, Mr. Keshe said the Keshe Foundation, or Mark Ray, again, our financial and research licensing arm in a way. He said the Keshe Foundation is the only organization on this planet consistently making cosmic ray material, or the carbon-14, I think he was referring to at the time, which now we understand is the creator ray in a way, or the cosmic ray energy. But the foundation is the only one on this planet, not spending billions, but spending a very small amount to create on a regular basis cosmic ray material, which they use in their structures. So as I said, if you go to the Mark Ray Corporation, it's one of the few companies, I think there's 30 on the stock market, that have I believe it's a 9661 code. That means they're involved in space technology and space research, and there's only 30 companies on the stock market to have that designation. Actually, they had to struggle to get it back because of paperwork or something else. Not exactly sure.
I'm sure in next day or so, very soon, you will see a launch of a new pen, what we call the paint pen, on the same structure. It's not plastic anymore. You actually hold the whole direct contact with the material. The new, what we call cosmic ray paint pens, are a solid state. What it means, in the present paint pens, you have a plastic container which still filters energy between the body and what is to be taken out. Now you actually hold directly the two energies. You create a closed circle. And these are the new extensions of the energy systems which we have put out. And you will see it has been sent to you, but has not been what we call put out or priced out, but is part of the new product range which the Keshe Foundation lives there. You don't need necessarily to buy it for Easter because it's a rabbit. These you can buy it as a decoration and put it in the house for transfer of energies. And they all have confirmation, because we had a lot of problem with people transferring like cosmic, what we call ray materials. But now as a resin is inside, is within. For example, in the past we had a problem with paint pens in some countries because of the liquid inside it or whatever, could not be done. Now is a resin. Anybody around the world can buy the paint pens. And this is part of the structure of bringing in peace, bringing in what we call happiness into the house, change of the energies. You just put it as per item. And this allows us to be able to transfer a lot of it. You have a child which is sick. We are developing technologies to be able, as a toy, to bring that change. Children don't like to take medicine. We'll be coming the same way. In the coming months, as part of the Keshe Foundation reorganization, we will receive documentation and materials worldwide licensed for the first time for the viruses, which means we'll handle through a structure how to overcome the viruses in a way it does not exist in the world of medicine. And this will become part of our structure of the work. And you will see massive amount of pictures and items which will be continuous.
Anyone familiar with the pine cone and what it represents? I think it represents some kind of life or something. I've seen these carved into certain bedposts and other things, maybe in certain pictures. So this all has all the products, Mr. Keshe was saying in the past, are made for the elevation of the soul of the man. From the simplest, least expensive butterfly to the more elaborate products that are offered in the store, the paintings and other things, all are designed for an elevation of the soul, or an enlightenment, or to become more peaceful, but all made to elevate rather than take away from. And that's how you bring the change, not by punishing, but by elevating, as I understand it.
Will be added to And we try to keep it in a way workable for all of us in so many ways of understanding how things work. You can.
So I knew someone that had everything red in their kitchen, from the toaster to the pot and pan holders to some tinted red glasses, drinking glasses. So this would be a beautiful addition to their kitchen. Everything was sort of trimmed in red, and it looked very nice. And this is just a beautiful gift that you can add. Who wouldn't like a red heart?
Use it for Valentine, and you can make it for Easter. But at the end, at this final point, is how we enjoy connection and the understanding of the use of the energy field. In the next couple of days, we already made this offer to some of the retailers. If those are in the retail side of the Keshe Foundation, have access to charities or whatever, that they can give the resins freely in the hand of the what we call people who need it. The Keshe Foundation has set up a structure to support that. And all the what we call our gel packs, as of this week, you will see, will be reduced to 10 and 20 euro per pack, depending on the size. And we have a large number of the pillows, which we want to
Let's just take a look at that if we could for a minute. I'm not familiar with the gel pack, yes, but the pillows, no. I remember I contacted the Romanian group at one time. I think they were sort of an offshoot, but they had some beautiful pillows embroidered with some great designs and things. And they said the GANs, but I don't think it was certified by the Keshe Foundation. And plus, they said it wasn't feasible to ship it. The shipping was prohibited. So let's see if we can find these pillows that we're talking about. He mentioned pillows and he mentioned gel packs, correct? These are on sale for a very, okay, here's one of the pain pads. I'm not sure if that's what he's talking about. Maybe not. Anyone ever order a pillow or a gel pack? And you see there's many items in this store. Some are quite highly priced. And again, he said the butterflies are whatever they are, 20 euro or whatever. He said they're actually priceless, but you can have it for 20 euro. Here's the beautiful chess game, which each one of these figures has all of the little pawns, and the rest all have certain fields embedded within them. But anyway, you can find it within the Keshe Foundation store. Here's our existing pain pen, and of course the energies were very strong in there. I'm not seeing the new one yet. Apparently it's going to be clear with no liquid, but you can find it within the store. This store probably has 150 product offers in it. Here's your butterflies here. But it'll soon be in the triple digits, 10, 20, 30,000 products. As the foundation and the artisans start to kick in, this will also have a sister store, perhaps in what Mr. Keshe had mentioned a bit ago about Shopify, that they're setting up something on Shopify. So you'll be able to go there. The checkout is much easier, and so on and so forth. So we're just scrolling through some of these. Here's a gel pack large, 79. I don't know what it was before. There's slippers, gel slippers, gel pack small. Again, I don't know what the prices were, if these are reduced. And here's a gel pack medium. I don't see the pillows yet. But anyway, they're in there. Here's some face masks for different things. Probably, is this the pillow here? No, this is a cushion. So maybe some of these things will be put on sale. I don't know. So if you're looking to try one of the space technology products in a way, It's in the Keshe Foundation store, soon to become Shopify. And as he said, maybe we're not understanding some of the knowledge he's teaching. He said he's teaching for the future. So to give a reference point. So maybe, I think he just said that in this workshop. So what he's teaching in here will be actually perhaps understood more in the future, or he's laying down some sort of reference point that we can go back. As he said, even in a previous workshop, that in the future you may tap into this knowledge when you need it. It may not be for right now. So he's sort of giving us some advanced knowledge that we may not understand today, but in the future we may tap into it somehow or remember it, that it was delivered.
Structuring of the Keshe Foundation, changing the pillows to $29.99 for some, for the small ones, and to $40.49 for the larger one. That we can move a lot of things out of the way, that we can accommodate the new changes and the new product range which is coming into the structure of the Keshe Foundation. So in the next few days, look for.
These look like soap dishes, correct? With that little cut in there, that means so the liquid water could drain out in a way. These look like a type of soap dish, which you could put the soap from the Keshe Foundation in, and even carry a bar with you, I think. And the fields, as you use that soap, perhaps he said they're connected depending on how they divided up the lots, but some of that material stays with you as you wash with it. And I know the last time I ordered soap, it was very, I could use it as a shampoo and almost as a shave cream. That's how much lather it had made. I don't know if anyone else got it, and it left the skin. One of my friends said it was very nice to use. It left the skin moist, and apparently they were happy with that.
Or what we call the Keshe Foundation pages, and see what you want from it and what suits you, and everything will be priced down to come in through. There's a lot of other more products which is already being produced and will be added to this range, and it's mainly to change because we understood a lot of people have problems even in partnerships, that they want to change the environment of the house, but the partner is allergic to this and that. These are decorative items. They will do the same. You have a child which is disturbed. This does the same. Put it around the bedroom.
And that's a very nice one too. Again, they're sold individually, but they're interacting with each other, with the environment, and with the entities within the environment. So that's another beautiful offering right there. Again, some of the items are priced a little expensive, but of course, we know everything has gone up. I went to order something this week that I ordered last week, and the man at the restaurant said, I said, how come you're charging me more this week? He said, Mark, my prices of this went up. I mean, you know, and so I have to charge more. So I said, okay, we go for it. I mean, it wasn't a lot more, you know, but he said my costs are going up. So this is what Mr. Keshe was saying. They may start to price things out of reach for many things. I remember the Holy Book saying in the end days, a loaf of bread for a bag of gold. But now we know we can actually get the energy of the bread through the system, I believe, and not actually need the physical bread. Again, this is beyond imagination of myself, how it's done. He's not revealing exactly how all this is done, but certainly it's been tested, and it's not put out there just to put something out there. And I think we're going to be hearing some reports on these beads that you can just wear on your wrist and balance or somehow process a certain unwellness condition of sugar.
Done this in different ways in different trials, where we just leave the bottle of gases, and people don't like to see this. This is a decorative, but does the same thing. The size, the shape brings the dimension of the change, and then it's for you to see how things done in what we call a structured way, we introduce new materials, and as I said, we are looking for what we call resellers of the products of Keshe Foundation worldwide. It has to be a continuous, not just buying order for me to buy and just for what I want. This is a new product range, our manufacturing site for distributing, and new product range will come, which part of it will be high advanced technologies.
So again, if you're an artisan and you're listening and you're making a product, it doesn't matter if it's a kite or a cup or a basket or a mat, you can write to info@keshe.foundation and see if they'd like to work with you and add a plasma dimension to your current product. Of course, you'll have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Mr. Keshe is not revealing all the knowledge. So if you're an artisan, just be aware that you will not be able to share how you've enhanced your product as I see it. Of course, you can say that there's material in there, but you won't be able to say exactly how, what, and maybe you won't even know yourself. You'll just be, as they did with people making soaps, they just said, add this water into your batch of soaps, and that's all they did. But it had fields and plasmas and other things embedded within there. But they just added the water, made the soap, and apparently it worked. As Mr. Keshe said with the painters, the same way. They didn't make their own GANs. We supplied the GANs, and they probably told them where and how to apply it. Maybe one coat, two coats in certain areas, or a half a coat, or diluted in certain areas and create sort of an interaction or a twinity between the two paintings. But perhaps the artist didn't exactly know, but was received materials from the Keshe Foundation to embed in their product. And so this, again, left them not knowing exactly, but seeing the results, perhaps.
This is the new way we spread the knowledge and the technology and in the mass production. You will understand soon. As I said, we don't release much more about what the Keshe Foundation does because of what we saw in the past, but the foundation is working to become one of the largest structures in scientific world. Step by step, very quietly, we receive support from knowledge seekers who can support us, both financially, scientifically, and others. We have said this time not to talk, but to show. And this is part of the structure you see, and you'll see more amazing things coming out of the foundation in a very, very clever way. But as we said, for example, the ganses are now in what we call energetic bottles, can be bought from all the chemists you can order through EU, in Austria and the rest. In the pharmacies, you can ask for Keshe Foundation materials as part of the energetic liquids, as what we call wellness products.
Is anyone adding any, has anyone offered any sort of, I don't know how many are in manufacturing or have a current business, maybe no one, I don't. Adding any sort of products or trying to develop any with the Keshe Foundation? You can feel free to share it here, just the ideas, or, and again, maybe you haven't done anything, but you have an idea to do something. I always thought embedding this within the filter system, within the buildings, these tall buildings where they have the sick building syndrome, and putting some of these air handling filters, which they change pretty frequently, into the structure. And this may enhance the interactions and make the building more productive. It certainly probably would reduce the absenteeism based on illnesses, perhaps, or flus. And if you lose half your crew, certainly your productivity goes down. And you can't blame them because they may have taken the whatever and thought they were safe, but yet they still developed the flu. So this may help prevent it. And that would be a huge, huge market. All of the high-rise buildings in every capital in every country could be sort of a program set up to use these sort of filters to enhance the productivity, the work environment, and the wellness of people occupying that location.
So this is going to be the same. So again, you can buy these as an energetic unit from the resellers, and the same forward. Those of you who take part in the sessions of this month and next month, please make sure you have at least 2 headphones with you. We need that. And to try to be ready for an experience which we would like you to tell us how you went through the session. This is for information.
What is this item? Perhaps I'm missing it. Does anyone know what this is? Okay, I don't know either.
Transfer, which means we send the information in a different way for your soul, as I said in the teaching, to convert it in to understand the position of the transmutation. And the whole structure of the sessions for next 3 months is to define how exact we transfer this information to you, that your soul or your energy uses it for transmutation.
Okay, just to go back to the Keshe store, I know we're all familiar that are in this group, but this is the cosmic ray transmission session he's talking about. You can click on it. There's a discount if you go for all 3 sessions. I think you save 150 euro plus the exchange and the rest. So you can order there's one on the 30th of January, the 27th of February, and the 20th of March, just the day before they officially release the game. I think if it's ready on the 21st, we'll have to see. Sometimes things don't get delivered as promised by the date, but that's just because they're improving it. So this is what he's talking about. Let's just go back and finish this.
People had a problem with this. Now we have what we call developed the technology on the backside of what we understood and what we saw from the performance of the 3i. The world of science has forgotten about this thing, came and went. We're still analyzing the data we received from the encounter, because they looked at the physical, if they changed something. We look at how actually it was doing, hiding under, interacting with the souls, with the energy fields of the body of the man. And this is something very, very important for us to extend, to understand, and imply it and apply it in the new systems which is coming, which allows for a faster transmission, even those who don't know how to transmute. It brings a dimension of transfer. So these sessions are important for us, and then we'll see how fast you will do the transmutation, how fast you can merge into the transfer of energy, and how you use it, not necessarily for transmutation, for yourself for wellness, how things change in you. You don't need to transfer and transmute energy to go somewhere. You can transfer that energy to change something within you, emotionally, physically, and the rest of it. This is part of the expansion of what we said, the production of what we call the systems. And this is part of what it needs to be understood in totality. Gradually, we are moving into technologies which is non-known and will bring a lot of controversy with it. And we'll see how things can work in the total application. And these resonance, cosmic ray, material resonance is part of this structure. Any questions?
Okay, any questions anyone would like to share or ask? I'm not sure if we could answer them or we even will answer them, but anyone like to voice anything about this? Okay, if not, I thought we'd go back to the beginning of the workshop and just listen to that as far as we can go to the top of the hour, which is only 10 minutes. Let's check in with Alex. How are you faring in the background? If you're there. Okay, if not, we'll just go to the beginning of the workshop and we'll listen to the teaching. So you've heard the announcements, you heard what's happening in the store. And of course, there's more in this workshop about the twin souls and the twinity. And again, this is quite a mystery to me. First, I thought the soul of physicality, which he mentioned may be that twin soul, but he said your twin soul could be across the universe, and our galaxy and apparently our sun all have twins. So this is a new understanding, perhaps. Yes, Alex, how are we faring?
Take about 30 minutes, please.
Okay, so we're going to cover about 30 minutes of the 40-something minute workshop here. And let's just go right up to it. I don't know if this is exactly where it starts, but this time I think we'll look at the transcript as we play. All right, and I'll just bring our transcript back to the start of the workshop. And there's probably things, again, embedded into this workshop. This is what's going to be happening in the gameplay. And of course, all the workshops may be, well, for sure, they're going to be part of the One Nation Network, but he may even say, you know, we don't need YouTube anymore. We don't need X anymore. We're just going to deliver on the One Nation Network. And if you want to be part of it, you're going to have to get a wallet to join us. Even the governments will have to have a wallet, but I don't know if it'll go that way. But there's certainly enough in the public domain for people to whet their appetite with for absolute sure. Okay. Feel free to stop it. As always, we'll carry on till about the bottom of the hour or maybe a little before. Or Alex, you can signal when you're ready to begin your transmission.
2026. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the public teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond, and I will be host once again in this weekly series of workshops. And once again, we have the honor of having Mr. Mayran Keshe as our teacher and presenter here today. And I believe, once again, he's ready to go with another Knowledge Seekers workshop. Please go ahead, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good day to you. As usual, wherever and whenever you listen to a series of Knowledge Seekers programs from Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, we welcome you back. As we explained last week and the week before, we are on a track to understand the connection between us and central energy of our creation and the creation of whatever we see. One of the most important part of this equation is how does one connect and how does one recognize the position to connect to. What this means is, by the law of physics, by the law of understanding the plasma energy, a system, a field, a magnetic field, a current will flow in a direction till it meets a resistance or encounter an interaction that, in that interaction, in feeding back, the source understands has a line of connection that it can deliver to. You have a battery. The cable is there. The battery doesn't discharge, doesn't supply anything. The minute you connect the two ends of the battery to an entity, doesn't matter what it is, then the system recognizes I'm connected. I need to give, but I see what I can take back. In the world of cosmology and space technology, we call it gravitational and magnetical. In electronics and electrical currents, we call it current and eddy current.
Yeah, I know Mosfeq has a very good understanding. I think he's left, so perhaps over the coming week. And Rick has a good understanding of this current and eddy current. I'm sure Ekmar does as well, but I don't have a deep understanding. Anyone understand current and eddy current? This feedback? Okay.
We have created many names for this. We hear different words that in certain ways you have fields which they go out, and if you make a box, nothing can be leaked out. You make a Faraday box, and then now we have built what we call magnetical gravitational boxes with nanomaterials. And so we have come up at the end of it with the same result. Doesn't matter, we go on a field, we go on a current, we go on a gravity, whatever we do, there is a need for giving and taking back to see what I'm giving, what is more needed to be done. And in that giving, I run out of energy myself, I need to gather from somewhere else. In the world of what we call state of matter, we call it gravity, which means we pull in what is there for us, and then we give a connection back. We call it magnetical. There is no difference between the current and eddy current. There is no difference between what we saw with Professor Miles and we saw with what we call Tesla. So if we understand this principle, there is no connection till then.
And there are some videos about with Professor Miles, I think, interacting maybe with Mr. Keshe. I know he was shown and he was investigating this. Perhaps one of the other knowledge seekers knows more, but he was on something for a while, this Professor Miles. And apparently he understood part of this technology as well. But I don't know if he just left it or continued or worked on something else, or I don't know the whole story there. But apparently very famous Professor Miles.
There is a feedback. So the soul of the man is the same. The rays of the Creator has found a source, and in the same way we feed back to it where we are, what we do, who we are, and the rest of it. There is no difference between the location recognized by the rays of the universe in respect to the sun of the solar system and the son of the man we call the soul of the man. But for them to be recognized, for them to be in a position to be understood, the Creator transmits always on H, what we call fundamental plasma energy, which is Him, which is the source, the center of the universe. So when this field,
and of course we know H as hydrogen, but I don't think it's hydrogen gas, it's hydrogen plasmatic fields is what he's talking about, perhaps. Again, I'm not too good with the names and so on. And as he said, with the man from the universe, you talk hydrogen to them, they're going to shrug their shoulders and say, what are you talking about? They understand energy strengths or strengths of energy. They don't particularly use the names as I understand it. That's why so many times he said, forget the names.
moves around, we call it rays of light. In religions, we have found different names for the same thing because we rub the people in under different titles. Is the connection which the Creator sends out across the universe, irrespective of position and place. And then when a matter state created, then the response goes back. Here I am, but I have to digest it. I have to transfer it in a plasma condition, which at the soul level, at the central energy, but lower level down, we call it carbon 14. Therefore, it's our feedback. It's that eddy current. Is that what we call I call it Mr. Miles. We have found differently in the role of plasma technology, we call it magnetic, but it's that feedback. So the creator contours, the line of connection comes at the fundamental plasma magnetic field level, which is the creator, is the source, is the center. It does not matter what name you put to it. And in interacting with the plasmatic condition, we call it carbon-14 as a feedback. And then this carbon-14 travels the whole span of the universe, and this way it travels and interacts with the other materials and positions and other souls and other magnetic field plasma centers, which in the condition of environmental field condition changes to matter state, and the carbon-14 becomes carbon-12 in the amino acid of the man, in the vacuum condition of the body of the man, in the atmospheric condition of this planet, it becomes carbon as we know it, and we call it carbon-12, and the rest of it.
So unbeknownst to us, we're already operating in this dimension, but we didn't realize it. You're connected to the creator, you're communicating, but we didn't really know, and to other things as well. And what we were using and what connection we were using, we had no idea. So slowly, he's unraveling more and more, but there's still, I believe, much more to be unraveled.
So we have to understand that we, as scientists, as cosmologists, as those who deal with what we call universal fields, we understand the whole levels in a battery, in the plasmatic field of the condition of the earth, and in the condition of the soul of the man. It's all the same. In a way, we send a message to the creator, I'm here, I'm here. And in sending the message as a carbon-14, we have a spectrum. So the field doesn't go directly back to the creator on his way, trying to find his way back. Even though he finds his way back, it interacts with other elements, with other fields, which they, in a way, saying hi to the creator, the same as what we are doing. And this leads to create of new conditions, new cells, new organs, new planetary system, new moons, and then. And then in the future, one day we explain something very deep in the knowledge of the cosmology, knowledge of the universal, what we call magnetic fields, what we call fundamental plasma, as we seen the structure of every plasma has to have another plasma to balance with, then it'll come to a very fundamental understanding that you have the sun, and then it creates the earth and the moons, and then you have the neutron and protons, which produce a balance of the electron for the feedback. Our universe has a parallel universe. It's a twin.
So as he said, one day in the future, and then in the future, one day, we explain something very deep in the knowledge of cosmology. So if you think he's revealed everything and you've got it all, you haven't. You've missed it. Not realizing that there's much, much more to come in this whole process. And that's probably why we've, in a way, been stuck creating certain things that we see created within the foundation, because we don't have all the keys yet.
It's a law of physics. It cannot be done any other way. It has to give its energy to a position that it gives back to it, that it can keep the stability. And if this universe of us has been here for billions of years, trillions of years, then it has a twin. In the same as our solar system has a twin, in the same as our atom has a twin, has electron and a proton and a neutron in the structure of the atomic understandings, and the same way they feed back, they receive and they give back. And in all that connection, there is a connection to the center, because it is what we call fundamental plasma magnetic field elements. We call it the source or the God and the creator and the rest of it. If we see in the bigger picture, it becomes much easier to understand the smaller picture, which is the soul of the man, and then we call it the twin soul, and then we understand in the smaller field we have that twin part of our soul, we call it the soul of physicality. They have found different names for it, the soul, the spirit, the ruh, and the rest of it. And when is to interact, be it within the condition of environmental plasma of the, what we call the environment, leads to manifestation of the physicality of the man. The physicality of the man is actually that electron.
So one of the reasons I think it sounds so strange, because we've never heard it explained this way. Again, I'm not a scientist formally, but they've gone to a different understanding of the process of creation from the Big Bang and so on, and this has misled us. So Mr. Keshe is taking it in a different way and exposing the fallacies behind the Big Bang, and realize everything in a way comes from the smaller, weaker giving fields and builds up to the matter state rather than the opposite direction, as the Big Bang Theory sort of purports.
The soul of the man is a neutron, and the soul of physicality of the man is that proton, because bits of it is flashed out, which becomes the physical manifestation of the man. If we understand the whole process and look at it scientifically, look at it and understand it, not with the eye of trying to connect it to an event which suits us, but understand the whole process as a natural, fundamentally the same, right across different strength field of the creation, then we come up with one answer. There is only one process in the world of creation. And depending on the place, position, and what we call position, creates the cell of the man, the soul of the man, the star, the galaxies, the universes, the parallel, what we call twin universes, and the rest of it. Because in the world of creation cannot be exceptions. The exceptions are where we don't understand, and now we have to look for it. We have to understand how this come to be. We call it the soul of the solar system, but where is the soul of physicality of the solar system, which in the manifestation of physicality becomes the Earth, the Moon, the Mars, and the rest of it, on a matter state of physical condition. This is where most of you as knowledge seekers fail in understanding the whole process to be the same, does not matter what. So when it comes for you to move across the universe, when you come to transmute, you have not seen any engine on the solar system, have you? You have.
And of course, this is what you hear this word transmute or transmutation. This is what Christ actually showed us, but all the Christians actually missed it. And of course, the leaders also told us in a way that Christ died on the cross, when we understand that he actually changed himself and became a different man. He actually transmuted because they were after him, but he still wanted to exist in the physicality. So he changed his appearance. And this is gaining an aspect of immortality, as I understand it. But I still don't fully understand it for sure, but we're getting a bit closer. Any comments from anyone they'd like to make? Again, this universal knowledge is being unraveled right before us. And of course, I think the gameplay will help to strengthen this understanding to where we actually start to move. and transmute. And this is the way the Creator moves. As he said, if the UFOs knew how or understood how the Creator travels, they wouldn't be in the UFO. And as we heard in some of the bumpers we play, the secret is within the brain and the spaceship is within the soul of the man, but we haven't been tapped into it, so to speak. We have it, but we don't know how to trigger it, perhaps. But we all have the capabilities, and not only man, every created entity in the universe has all the attributes of the Creator. But of course, we denied that we were the Creator, and of course, some of the leaders in that also told us you're not the Creator, you need to be saved because you're fallen in this whole mess. And that, of course, was to cash out your pocket and your soul, as I understand it. And again, this is just my simple understanding.
Not seen no rockets hanging around it, have you? It still does 10,000 kilometers in the solid body state and travels beyond the speed of light in the dimension of the energy. Can that be that difficult? If we understand this, there's one fundamental point which is need to be understood. What is the outcome between what we call the fields of the Creator and the fields which we send back to our Creator as carbon 14, as our extension of the magnetical system and the rest of it?
So again, you're already connected to the Creator. As he goes on to say later on, you're connected to the soul of this planet through the same mechanism of hydrogen. And I would imagine we're all interconnected with each other in the same way, except we've been never aware of that. We're always trying to reach the Creator, but again, we're already connected. Now we do have to do some modifications within our behavior, I think, but we're already connected.
You have two opposite fields, one of the lower and one of the lowest, which comes from the dimension of the plasmatic field interaction. What's the difference between the two? In the world of electronics, we call it voltage. In the language of the physics, we call it potential difference. In the understanding of the totality of the creation, man has not understood the power of magnetic fields interactions.
But he did say the passengers of the 3I had certainly huge knowledge of magnetic fields and how to operate them, especially the captain, which he took his hat off. And we've, in a way, captured some of that knowledge within the Keshe Foundation and are going to be using it in these transmission sessions, as I understand it. So he may be, in a way, adding to whatever was provided by the 3I. And again, they came and they went and they sort of remained obscure to most of the scientists on this planet, but the Keshe Foundation has a different understanding and it's been recorded, so it'll be studied in the future when the scientific community starts to realize more about this interaction we just went through.
In a funny way, man understood, but the greed of physicality threw him to the wall. What do you do? What is actually ever understood? You go to a shop, you buy a generator, you buy a motor. What is in it? A magnet which rotates, and then a crazy part which stands there and I say, I don't take you. What does the magnetic field? In hitting you, releases its energy. Doesn't this happen when a wave hits a block? When you run and hit a man who's stationary, you transfer your energy. But man has to understand in the world of creation, the same thing happens in the dimension of plasmatic energy fields.
And again, he said man has to understand. I don't think man has a clue about this yet unless they're in and around the Keshe Foundation. So in a way, I see this as the knowledge seekers have to understand. It'll reach them in the future, but they're not even aware of this. The knowledge seekers are a bit aware of it, but when he says man has to understand, I think he's including the knowledge seekers as well, because we're the only ones in a way somewhat familiar with this of what's being introduced here as the process of creation and the rest of this. So we need to understand.
The rays from the Creator are not a singularity. They are more like a field.
And of course here, as he said, the rays from the Creator. Now, he's been saying we only need a single ray, just one ray, but apparently that one ray, they are more like a field. He said the rays from the Creator are not a singularity. And just in the last workshop or the one before, he says this is all you need is a singularity, one ray. Now here he's saying the rays from the Creator are not a singularity. They are more like a field. And you sort it.
And then, as we say, they create vibration. They create waves. And it's the same when the carbon-14 travels back. And then now you understand, you hit them together, what you're going to get. A bit of dust, a bit of debris, and a massive amount of energy. Cosmic ray energies, which runs in the principle of the whole rotation of this planetary system, this solar system, this galaxy, and the universe, and the universe, is only this and nothing else. And world of science have not understood the beauty of this.
And that's what he's always told us. The Earth doesn't have a gas tank and it doesn't have wings. So how, with the massive weight that it is, how does it move? This is again, the energy of the cosmic rays. And this is what man has not understood, or our science has not understood either. We're still playing with propulsion and rockets and the rest when we can use magnetic fields.
They want to get the magnet to rotate it, and then they say they got a perpetual rotation. Plasma works on the perpetual rotation. How come man has not looked into the depth of the knowledge to understand this? Is the lack of knowledge in half a cooked knowledge which has brought us here. And scientifically, we can blame only one person for this in the cycle of the recent knowledge of the man, because our ancestors understood this. They worked on the plasma.
Anyone want to guess who that we can only blame one person in this cycle of recent knowledge of the man? Because our ancestors understood this. They worked on the plasma, so it's within our structure. It's been transferred down through the RNA, as I understand it. But they sort of changed it. We went back to matter state understanding, and there's some people who've, in a way, misled us. Whether they did it consciously or just due to a lack of understanding, or, again, not going beyond the matter state because they might have sounded a little strange. But although we've heard of movement at a distance, or spooky movement at a distance, or turning one atom, as Mr. Keshe likes to say, and the other atoms turn, but yet it wasn't, it was more kept in the matter state understanding. Anyone want to add anything? Okay.
We see it right across the planetary system. In different locations, we see how man achieved this knowledge, but could not pass on because man used to live in a village. Now man has a communication system that every village is connected to each other. You knowledge seekers worked on magraphs, but he never understood. Why do we coil it? Isn't it the structure of the plasma? Isn't it how light travels from one point to another? So it's important for those who come to be part of understanding the totality, have to understand this transfer of energy. This change, receiving energy as in dimension of the hydrogen, in interaction with the soul of the man, in reversing back with the what we call carbon 14, creates the energy which the brain of the man uses. You call it KAKT energy. This is what the man has not understood. This is what the problem sits with understanding of the physiology, the biological structure of the man and everything else, because always one bit missing. We don't have scientists which can cross the line of the knowledge of physics and chemistry and everything else. Narrow-minded, given a PhD and a professor, and we lock them there, that's it. Where in the future, the man has to educate his children to understand the full structure of the work of the universe, be it the chemistry, biology, and show them the connection. Everything ends up to one dimension, the light of the created, the dimension of the creation of the rays, which comes to man.
Okay, I think we're going to leave it there and create the Dome of Peace. We're at 34 minutes. You can pick it up and listen to the rest. Are there any comments, questions, or issues about this? But it still seems we have a way to go to get to the full understanding of everything. But I believe it's built into the game in a way. As he said, we'll embed the compression technology just by playing the game. Don't understand how that's going to work or even the full understanding of compression technology, but it'll be shared plasmatically within the game. And then maybe we'll see my knowledge increase a little bit. All right, let me bring this screen back. I'm sure Alex is ready. We'll just take another 5 or 10 minutes on this Dome of Peace that we can create as creators. The first step of the Dome of Peace is releasing the GANS waters. Again, if you're not sure what that is, you can go on the Keshe Foundation wiki and learn how to make a very simple GANS product and use the water from the top, maybe a third down, and that's the water you would release. And it already knows what to do and where to go, and you can release it any way you want. And you can also add your fields of peace and love and kindness and the rest into those fields, but it has quite a bit of intelligence to do on their own. So this is the first step in creating this Dome of Peace. And let's hear from Stefania, I think.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, I will look for it. I don't know if anyone want to read this Dome of Peace. Anyone want to offer?
I
With
will
a nice
read it
voice.
for you.
Okay. Okay.
This is what came in and what is now become a pattern. This is from a guy, I don't know him, but he says, please remember this Sunday and every Sunday from now on, till we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet. Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the GANS waters around the world at 12 p.m. Central European Time and or 18 p.m. Central European Time every Sunday at the same time as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for participating in this greatest movement by the soul of the man to bring about the peace on this planet as the permanent feature of the life of this planet.
So that's how simple it is. Yeah, it takes a little bit of effort to make a GANS and so on, but it's very, very simple, as we know. And it does the work on its own. It's not that you have to go out and show it what to do. So just releasing the GANS waters, putting your intentions in it as well, will effectively do its work. But again, it's not a day job. So just because you released a liter of GANS water today, that doesn't mean you'll see everything change tomorrow. As he said, not a day job. This is a longer term effort, and the Chinese have been doing it for over a decade. But again, it's just one aspect of creating the Dome of Peace. And of course, we're doing it together at 12 or 18 p.m. because together we're stronger in some way. we're making a bigger pulse or a bigger splash in that ocean as we do this together. So that's the first step of the Dome of Peace. You can release it into fountains around your property, in rivers and streams, and so on and so forth, as you choose. As I said, I put it in my car as a windshield washer, and you can spread it that way as well, and many other ways that I probably haven't even thought of. So now we'll go to the second step of the Dome of Peace, which is the power of the souls collectively, or that elusive energy dimension that we didn't really trust in ourselves, that we're operating in this dimension, but we know we're operating in both matter state and energy dimension. I think this is part of that gameplay. In the game, well, yeah, you're playing with a mouse and a cursor and the rest, but this is the energy dimension. But you'll still go to your regular job, and you still go to your regular bank, perhaps, and supermarket, until it's fully converted over and running. So we're always operating in both dimensions, but it's just we've been totally enamored with the matter state and not too much with the energy state, because we haven't understood it and it doesn't feel comfortable, and the others won't confirm that we're working in the energy dimension either. When I ask people about giving, and they don't believe that they can even, I didn't hardly believe it in the beginning. I thought you had to do something in the matter state to make something work. You couldn't just use your wishes or your energies to change something. But now we're knowing collectively it becomes quite a powerful thing, even individually. And of course, we're learning the creator didn't have any partners, did it all on his own, and created the whole process. Okay, so let's listen to this part. Thank you, Stefania, and thank you, Shweta.
Anybody wants to read the Dome of Peace? I mean, beautiful souls in here. Okay, I'll read this beautiful presentation of Dome of Peace. And the Dome of Peace is already here. All the knowledge seekers, truth seekers, lovers of humanity has built it in a way, spreading the guns, loving each other as shareholders. So I will read this as please remember, every Sunday from now on until we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet, Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the Gans waters around the world at 12 p.m. CET and or at 18 p.m. CET every Sunday at the same time, as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for the participation in this greatest movement by the soul of man to bring about the peace on this planet as a permanent feature of the life of this planet. Mr. Keshe suggests we add the next step to create the Dome of Peace with power of the souls, as we have already going through this with the 2 eyes. And we ask you to spread the Gans waters each Sunday. Now we give you a new path. Now try to unite each other's souls. Try to elevate the souls of humanity, soul of humanity, through your own soul to a level that no one can touch, the embodiment of the human race. So beautiful. Choose a time where all of you come together on the soul level in a state of inner calmness. At that time, don't spread the water of Gans, but spread your soul. Unite, and in time, we will make a new race out of the soul of man. And then, instead of doing it once a week, do it all the time. Empty Keshe.
Okay, so that's how easy the process is. Doesn't take a lot of work. You can be working at your job, driving your car, hiking the mountain, riding the bicycle. So we see on Sundays it's noon and 6 p.m. CET or CEST, either one. But for this process, we're joining at 9 p.m. Every day at 9 p.m. Take 1 nanosecond of your life and wish for peace, or extend it longer if you'd like, but it's all up to you. We're not keeping track. We're not knowing who's entering this, but together we're stronger. And if we wake up the collective awareness of the soul of humanity, we will see the change at a much rapid pace as the energy needs to be created before we see the manifestation. And in addition to that, we learn how to give and take on the energy dimension. So you're invited by the Universal Council and the Keshe family in unifying at the soul level every day. We're creating a bouquet of energies. And as Mr. Keshe said, we're all providing a different spectrum of energies in a way, and that combination or those spectrums, or perhaps an individual field that you are giving through your emotions, has a key to touching the soul of one of these world leaders. Not the world leaders themselves, but the soul of the world leaders. And of course, the ones operating behind the curtain as well. So this is part of the process of elevating other souls in need. Again, not working in the matter state, because you need millions of dollars just to spend probably 5 minutes with one world leader. And maybe they wouldn't even accept you, even if you had the funds. But with the mother connection of the soul of the creator, we can connect and interact with anything. Again, the stronger the belief, the stronger the emotion. And again, that's connected to the wish, the hydrogen, and the creator completing the whole process. But as he said, the confirmation goes back, interacts, maybe says hello, stops here and there. So sometimes making wishes and converting things, it's not a day job. This is something that needs to be understood, and elevating of a soul doesn't always happen instantaneously. It most of the time, I think, is a process that happens. So we continue this process, up to you completely, until we reach that permanent peaceful condition on this planet. So you have a two-track way, or a twinity way. One is releasing Gans waters, one is using the collective power or awareness of the souls on this planet to do that. Okay, why don't we just take 1 minute and exercise our collective powers together in a way, and elevate the souls of the world leaders or whoever you'd like to bring into this process. But we do see that there's souls in need, and when we look out at the picture, we see in the matter state there's quite a lot of intended destruction and mayhem set to be unleashed on this planet. I think Mr. Keshe went through that in the last workshop, where he said we heard the massive amounts of helicopters in the background, as he said, when they were going to attack another country when they were operating in Valletta, or wherever they were in Valletta in Italy, and the same sort of massive helicopter activity. So they're staging, and we can still call it off, our wishes for peace and negotiations and collaboration. But sometimes maybe this is part of the work of getting to that point that we have to see, in a way, the hard way, and then we'll wake up to realize we don't want to continue in that direction. So you're all invited to participate and to create that beautiful bouquet of energies, and collectively do it at the 9 p.m., whether it's summertime or in the winter. So you're all invited, and let's just take 1 minute right now and just go through this entire process. Hello, Kitty. And that's how easy this process is. Again, you can extend it longer, but I think the pulsing of it, as he said, not just once a week, but do it all the time, that you can actually create these energies. And we don't know who else is creating the energies at the same time. And we invite everyone to participate. And as I said, the beauty of it is no one fails this test. So you've already, in a way, graduated into the work of the fields, giving and taking. And this is the dimension you'll use when you get into the universe. So word to the wise, as he said, don't wait till you get there. You're going to have a lot to learn. Start exploring and investigating this energy dimension, which is part of the instruction of the Keshe Foundation. Okay, any comments before we do that? I just want to put in, we mentioned Professor Miles. I think they spelled it differently in the transcript, but it's M-E-Y-L. And a knowledge seeker writes in the chat, a German physicist and electrical engineer. Miles is best known for his work on scalar waves, a concept that challenges traditional understanding of electromagnetism and suggests the possibilities of free energy technologies. So that's a little bit on Professor Miles, and apparently he investigated or was part or collaborated a bit with the Keshe Foundation or wanted to know more, but that's who Professor Miles, M-E-Y-L. Maybe you want to look up some of his work on the scalar waves, as they say. Alex, if you're ready, we're ready for you. We welcome you and look forward to your sharing of the universal knowledge.
Thank you much. Thanks for bringing the gang here, Mark. Well done. And I just want to let everybody know that we are going into some uncharted territories here.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the program will be delayed due to a snow or something. The snowstorm. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of things have been delayed. Yes, sir. But let's get this business out of the way, and we'll begin here right now.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of...
I'm sorry, we were in a rush.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
And how are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen?
We're still alive and we're still here.
And we're still kicking, right?
For sure.
Okay. Well, this is very, very good. This is the Keshe American Knowledge Team meeting of 2026, and I want to thank everybody for being here. As you know, we consider this meeting very, very important because we have so many representatives from all over the world, and it's kind of bringing up the rear from Thursday's Knowledge Seekers Workshop and Friday's Brazilian team meeting, and this is our Sunday afternoon contribution. So as we're trying to do is bring all these things down into bite-sized pieces. So let's see if we can digest this. This is the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Teachings on Plasma Science. We're still in the basic Picotech series. Today we're going to talk about deconstruction. My name is Alexandra. I am from Canada. It is January the 25th of 2026. This is part of the Keshe Foundation North America Plasma Education Series. So as you can see, we've been doing this for quite a while. And this is kind of the back half of what we were talking about last week, the construction. And so all of these sessions here are building blocks to, shall we say, build up our knowledge. And each of you can take what is key for you within your capability. And each of us has to understand that we have a responsibility. All of a sudden, we've always had this responsibility. And so that's one of the things, as I mentioned last week, it's kind of depressing. And the reason it's depressing is because how is it possible to go all your life with a lack of knowledge and then find out that so much of it has been lies? And it's been all done willfully and skillfully, and we've all been played. So really, that's one of the things that causes a depression. The other thing that causes depression is an inability to deal with the current situation, and that is changing. With the Keshe Foundation, we have this knowledge in our hand, and so it's going to pull us out of this depression. The most important way to do this is to increase our knowledge, and that's what we're trying to do. So please take what you can, add it to yours, and don't forget, there's more to come. So don't get depressed by the size of the hill in front of us. Understand that our resources are gaining in strength, gaining in field strength. And so one of the things we have to review is how to define matter. So matter is the manifestation of energy. And that terminology kind of invites the confusion because we have the small m matter state, which is the old science, and the capital M matter state, which is the new science. And so we see that the manifestation of this energy is binding, and the manifestation itself is what's called creation. So energy binding is creation, which leads us to the next question, which in the beginning, what was our favorite question? You know, which came first, the chicken or the egg? And of course, the answer is the first came the principal matter. And that's why it's called principal matter. So principal matter, of course, are the PM ticks that are flying around all around the universe, and they are magnetical in nature because they are an energy pack. And as such, they're self-contained within a parcel. And then they diverge all across the universe. And those that are having a common denominator come into a force field dilution, bringing together antimatter, dark matter, and matter state. And there's a plasmagen conversion, which at this point in time is in a matter state, but it is in a plasmatic matter state. How does it get into the physical state? Well, the Earth has its own MAGRAV condition, its own convergence. And when we take our convergence and interact with the Earth state's convergence, that becomes a field interaction, which we call inertia. And at that point in time, we can manifest into physicality. And so physicality becomes another part of the matter state. So, but of course, that is the part that we're most familiar with, isn't it? So one of the things that we don't understand about energy is that energy is always in motion. And so sometimes we don't see the results of our actions. Consequences are a result of actions. And these results may be visible and or tangible, but they also may be non-visible and or non-tangible. And so these results can be delayed or they can be instantaneous. So because in our lowest dimension, the physical dimension, we have the luxury of a delay in consequences. And so many times we figure that we can do whatever we want and there aren't any consequences. But this is why we're talking today about destruction. And so when we look at the generic question, when two forces come together, is it destruction or is it creation? So when we look at energy and energy in motion, there's no such thing as negative energy because energy is always positive. The question is it coming or going? So destruction itself is a kind of creation. And this is the question that we have to ask ourselves, what kind of creation are we creating? And we are only presented with the crudeness of matter state. And we say it's crude because we're just still understanding the matter plasma dimension. That is to say, the gravitational aspect of it is physical because we can touch it and see it, but the plasmatic is magnetical. We can't touch it or can't see it. But in either case, this is part of the feedback from the feeding. And that's man's problem. We are feedback dominant. So we are talking about the picostate, which when we look at the chart of levels of magnitude, which is being able to move between different energy states, we find that the energy increase or the energy decrease is by order of magnitude, which is 10 times. So in other words, now that we're going from the nanotech to the picotech, there's 3 levels of magnitude. So that's 10 times 10 times 10, which means that the picoscience is 1,000 times different from the nanoscience. And in this case, it's smaller, which means becoming more gravitational. And this is where we were able to demonstrate in Beijing using obsolete equipment. May the 10th of 2025, the gold rush began. And we could see the rotating fields and how they created gold. And we saw that with our own eyes. So even those from Missouri understand that it's happening. And in 2026, we have the silver rush has also begun. So this is an ongoing situation. So we talk about construction, and the nice part about it is that it's an ongoing thing and it may take hundreds of years. But destruction may only take minutes or even seconds. So as we say, destruction is a form of construction. But what if construction itself could be faster? Is that possible? Well, all we have to do is look at a frozen Gans ball and see the gravitational core and the magnetical hair-like lines emitting from the center. So the center part becomes the construction zone, and it expands to the outer perimeter of the ice cube. And so there we see that expansion. And when we take a microscopic look at a picoatomic layer, which is beyond the nanomonatomic state, we can see the same structure. We have these points that are on the surface of the pico particles. So our discussion really surrounds us. Where are we in terms of the kind of highways that we navigate? And so we discussed in the past the transmission, transition, and the transmutation highway, and we see that the carbon-16 highway is the fastest. The carbon-12, the transmission, is the slowest. And we can see the winding road. And so to understand this transmission, and we see it in waveforms, and for us, because it's the slowest way, as we go on the Karakoram Highway, you have to go a crooked mile just to drive a straight line. And it still is part of our transmission. But in that transmission, there are some magnetical situations because they go in one direction and they have to go into another direction, and there's a gravitational connections. And we don't see them individually. We see them as a sine wave, a frequency. And if we look closely at the sine wave, we see it in its singularity with the coming and the going. But we can overlay that with another sine wave and have a duality, if you will. So what happens when these sine waves overlap? Do they work together or do they come in opposition? And so we say, well, we can modulate them by, shall we say, stretching them or overlapping them. We can stretch them in singularity or we can overlap them in duality. Okay, so with that basis of understanding, then we understand how in the nuclear feeding inertia, when we see fragments of the complexity, it still maintains its gravitational stability. So the breakup, if you will, of the components still maintain this dimensional portability and can still maintain the integrity of these dimension points. Because in order to manifest in the physical dimension, they have to have the three dimensions to come together. And if we understand that this is part of the feedback, then the three dimensions that are feeding actually create more than three because they don't stop. And so now we have the physical dimensions, which is another dimension, and we are none of these three dimensions because we're in the observer dimension. So this really changes the whole picture. So when we look at the fragments, we can see them that they are kind of clues. Because if we look at the termination of the fragment, there's a convergence or there's a divergence. So the convergence is coming to that point, and the divergence is going away from that point. So what happens when these things come together? Well, there's an interaction. And so that interaction, which we call inertia, also has its clues. So when these things are converging, we call that gravitational. And when they're diverging, we call that magnetical. Okay, so that's the basic thing. And the common denominator, of course, is embedded in the clues. So there is both convergence and divergence. There's both gravitational and magnetical. And within that construct, there could be an embedded transmission. So that transmission has to go along the transmission line. So it has to observe the magnetical gravitational pole flipping to move along that line. But we don't see that pole flipping. We kind of ignore it. We look at what is the product of our galaxies. So these massive galaxies that, we kind of marvel at really are kind of PM ticks that kind of squeeze together and they converge into a gravitational core. So these PM ticks, which are magnetical, due to their common denominator, gravitate to the core. And so each of these PM ticks, being magnetical, also are self-contained. So these PM ticks are representative of cosmic rays, and they have a personality, they have a flavor, and they have a characteristic. And the reason they come together is because of a common denominator. Not saying the lowest common denominator, but what is the difference? Well, the difference is that you have two fields, and no two fields can occupy the same position. So automatically they're different. So even though they could be from the same source, they're still different because they had different paths. And there was no decision on how long the path was, how long it took, or what direction it came from. It's just that when they come together, when we see the dynamic plasma coming together, we had the basic X and Y axis, which are your two dimensions, and then the dynamic plasma with the Z axis gives you your third dimension. And of course, we're not in those dimensions because we're the observer dimension. So we can see that each of these magnetical PM ticks are contributing part of that common denominator. That's why they come together. But each of them have come through a different path. And so each of them are contributing to fill out the picture, if you will. So the picture itself becomes in three dimensions. So when we look at the books of Merentebakoli Keshe, such as book number 1, The Universal Order of Creation of Matter, we see that the combination is of three fields: the matter, the dark matter, and the antimatter. And then, of course, when we look at book number 2, The Structure of the Light, we see that one matter comes from another matter, and there is a connection. So the integrity of the transfer of that information has to be embedded in the transmission. That's the point. And then, of course, book number 3, The Origin of the Universe, shows how from that point we can diverge into two other points that are twin-like. And when we say twin-like, is they are balanced in terms of equilibrium, not in terms of balance in terms of size or any other dimension that you choose to work on. They are balanced in terms of energy and energy containment. And so they would be in different locales. And then, of course, when we look at our tiny little perfect universe and our spot on that, well, that's our Earth space. But we don't live on the whole planet. We live in a particular place. And we like to isolate ourselves from each other. And this is why for 414 weeks, the members of the Universal Council, along with Rick Crammond as the host, brought to us one planet, one nation, one race for justice and world peace. Because this is how we bring the unity. This is how we become world travelers. And this is how we become universal travelers. And I say travelers because we have been characterized as fallen angels. Fallen angels have faults, failings, and weaknesses. And so when we talk about the angular density with respect to the fall, you fall through weaknesses. And in that process, you increase the density, increase the pressure, and increase the gravity. All in all, we increase the dependence on the Earth space feeding. But there's an internal pressure of Gans fields because this balances everything and therefore conserves angular momentum. So this conservation of energy is something that we have to understand. And it's very simple. We have two hands, if you recall, a left hand and a right hand. And the reason this was such an important subject was because the DNA is the same in each hand and each finger of each hand and each DNA in each cell in each hand. And so the obvious question is, if I have the same DNA, but I have opposing thumbs, then DNA is not the criteria for having the two hands. And so this was quickly discovered by those doing DNA research, looking for the key to creation. And then, of course, there's the somewhat esoteric viewpoint when we realign the hands and we say, okay, on each point, we have the right hand with the body representing and the left hand with the soul representing, and each finger goes through the physical, emotional, and mental. And that is our physical matter state. But when we go to sleep at night, we encounter the intuitive, and this is where the two hands connect. And once we cross that threshold, we go into the astral, and then there's an engagement with the spiritual and the soul. And so a lot of people talk about that as being part of the aura. So, of course, when we have a confrontation historically involved duels. And duels were kind of a duality. But when we bring our fingers together, so the hands can't come together, that energy that is being emitted from the tips of the fingers manifests as friction. And if we clench our fists, that manifests into fighting. So either way, when these two fields come together, that's an inertia density manifestation. And so as we often refer to the squared circle and say, gentlemen, shake hands and come out fighting. But if you don't want to have that serious physical confrontation, just follow the 10 commandments as they're told to us. And then we realize that there's another 14 commandments added to it for a grand total of 24. And so these are the commandments for man, not for our puppies or our kitty cats or for the fish. How can you explain to them that thou shalt not lie? And why is that important? Because that creates an energy binding, which of course is self-serving, and that creates a very precise dimension point because it focuses on me, myself, and I. But the problem is we have grown accustomed to doing it at the expense of others, forgetting, of course, that we came here. And when we came here, we said, well, let there be light. And that light is pretty bright. It's so bright that we need to have shades. So we're talking today about deconstruction. Deconstruction different from destruction, because one form of deconstruction is to destroy, decompose, degenerate, dehydrate. But we're talking about deconstruction, which is, as we say, a form of construction. And what we're used to in that form is to do kind of a value destruction where we enlist the services of sabotage or poisoning. Then, of course, there's self-destruction involving loosh harvesting. And then there's the deliberate decoupling through gun policy. And this is one of the reasons we're always seeking vitality enhancement, we have a depletion in our emotional and physical structure. And we're either robbed of that or we self-destruct and we become loose leakers. So we're looking for vitality enhancement. And this is what we're providing through the Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship units. We also encouraged understanding of the gravitational completion of the gold in Beijing. And we saw the susceptibility and singularity where we could create a particle from the spinning reactors. But through an external input of a Gauss field of humanity, we had a susceptibility and duality where we actually saw the gold produced. And so that becomes the transaction zone. So the difference is singularity requires a solo effort. Duality requires a partnership. Partnership requires reciprocity. We call that a balance of incentives. So that balance of incentives is playing all the time, whether we choose to recognize it or not. And one of the things that is exemplary of that reaction is carbonic acid. It demonstrates an equidistant bonding. It's interesting that carbonic acid has many, many different names, and they're listed here. But when you look at the atomic structure, you can see that it's very symmetrical from left to right. But it's not symmetrical from top to bottom. But what is really important is that the bonds have an equidistant relationship. And so that makes it very, very susceptible to be modified in any direction. So when we look at carbonic acid, this is a molecule that rapidly converts to water and carbon dioxide in the presence of water. So the interconversion of carbon dioxide and carbonic acid is related to the breathing process of all aerobic organisms, like us, and to the acidification of natural waters. But going back to the first sentence, this molecule rapidly converts. And that is the key point. So this helps us understand the plasma rule where the higher strength feeds the weaker strength, contrary to our useful understanding where the higher strength beats the weaker strength or eats the weaker strength. Either way, this becomes a transaction zone of two fields. So when these two fields come together, that is a binding zone, but that binding zone could be also a conflict point. Either way, it's an inertia density manifestation, and then we have to choose how that comes together. So we've been talking about nanocharges and how when they come together, they create a structure that can charge and discharge. So there you have two forces demonstrated, but that's in two directions. So if we add a layer or stacking, they can be aligned as a nanotube. But when we look at the nano alignment of the nano coating on a copper wire, we see that the nano coating is a carbon nanocrystal, and it involves a monatomic alignment. And so that becomes three-dimensional. And so when we layer these nano layers, they can be aligned as a nanotube or as a diamond structure, which closes the tubes. And so you get this kind of nesting. And so we see as they nest together, these nano monatomic layers create these gaps. And of course, those are nano gaps. And so they create a structure that we call like a star formation, which is actually in the basic form of tetrahedron, which you can easily relate to by taking your first two fingers and putting them opposed to each other, but turning one 90 degrees. And you see how the tetrahedron can be created. 3 on the bottom, 1 on the top. So when you take these layer stars and start stacking them, you have these intermediaries which are connecting. And of course, they can be covalent, trivalent, tetravalent, and they're all bonds. So when we look at the monatomic star formations, the bottom layer is connected to the top layer, where we have 3 black circles on the bottom and 1 blue on the top. But if we have 3 blue circles on the top, then we have 1 black circle on the bottom, which means they kind of flip over. And they have to flip over in order for them to come together, because opposites interact. And so we create these nanostars which have a monatomic energy flow, and that flow is synergistic. It's a superconductor at room temperature. And as a conductor, more than 3 in a chain is a polymer. But when it folds over, then it becomes part of life, animate life. It creates a star formation. And so here we have our tetrahedron where we have 3 in the bottom and 1 at the top one being magnetical. And then, of course, they create this gravitational structure at the bottom, so the 3 dimensions come together, the matter, antimatter, and the dark matter, which create this gravitational core and a magnetical relationship to complete the star formation. And that's exactly what we did with the rotating balls, because each of the balls created a field, and we had 3 balls that were rotating on the bottom and 1 rotating on the top in the star formation. And that's what we did in Beijing. We had all these rotating balls, and it was nice to have all these silver spoons all over the place, hoping that the GANs would precipitate into those spoons. I guess it's hard to do, isn't it? How do you get them all in the spoons? Well, you don't. You get them all within the dynamic reactors. The dynamic reactors themselves created the plasma field at the core. And it was at that point that we began the first building dimension. And then we add another point and connect the two. And then we add another point and connect both those. And then we add another point and we connect 3. But we have to understand that each point is actually a dimension inertia building point. It actually comes from 2 fields. And so each of these points are connected, but each point is from 2 fields. But we can modify them by an external influence. So we could bend these fields, or squeeze them, or we could just blow them apart. So what happens there? And then we have a residue, we have a garbage, and we have to throw it away. Well, last time I looked at the solar system, I couldn't see that planet away. So when we get to this inertia dimension, building into a star formation, and if we understand that each point is coming from these 2 fields, Then another form of deconstruction is this inertia modifying. So we can either decouple or stretch or compress or squeeze or just go through deformation. So we can change the conformity of the star formation, and at that point, it just changes everything. And this is why we see the polyatomic solid Gans inertia. We have different sizes of Ganses, and they're kept together with covalent bonds. They're not glued together. And this is how we see the dynamic plasma construction coming together. So each point of those rotating balls has this inertia field of two fields coming together at that point, and then all the points within that star formation creating that gravitational core. And then that star formation reacts with the other star formation and creates another dynamic plasma construction. So what did we do to eradicate the virus? We used the cups of life. There was one cup, which was the emotion cup. It was magnetical, and the second cup was the copper Gans physical cup, and it was gravitational. So what happened? We had a deconstruction where one cup was depleting the energy of the emotion, and the second cup was depleting the energy of the conversion. Depletion becomes another form of deconstruction without the biggity bangity, without the noise, without the residue and the garbage which we have to throw away. So when we look at the Gans of the soul and how it's created, came from the cups of life, not the cup of the pandemic. And the cups of life had a product. When we took the two cups of emotion together, we created a Gans of a cup of emotion. And the two cups of the physicality, we created a Gans of the physicality. And then those two interacted to create one point, the transaction zone in the pico core. Well, that's what we are. We are a gravitational entity traveling in a magnetical field. And it has to have a balance. It has to have a counterweight, right? So when two fighters get into the ring, you want to make sure they're within range so that there will be a fair fight. Right. So we have a physical state, which we measure by weight, but we have an atomic state, which we measure by mass. Either way, that represents the gravitational core. And then we have a nuclear state, which we measure by Teslas. And then that enigmatic time, which is part of the plasma state. And that is measured as a magnetical force. And so we have the counterweight between the magnetical gravitational components. So this is following the equilibrium, the balancing. The plasma matter dilemma here shows that we have an atomic state that requires balancing, a nano and a Gans state, which requires balancing. But these are all part of the physical matter state. The supporting structure is the plasma state. And we can go from state to state using the Magravs energy transition state. That becomes part of the transfer state that allows us to go from energy state to energy state, but not necessarily in both sides at the same time. Because each point is part of the complexity of the whole. So in other words, when we're looking at the carbon inertia highways with the carbon 12, the carbon 14, and the carbon 16, we have to understand that there's a supporting structure behind that. And when we look at that supporting structure, we have to understand that it too has a supporting structure behind it. So the question is that supporting structure in a matter state that is physical or in a matter state that is plasmatic? Or is it not in a matter state? Because when we look at the cosmic ray equilibrium, we find that these fields are not in a physical state. And they are complex. And so the relationship of each field has a gravitational magnetical relationship, and which allows an alignment and a convergence. And so the periphery is magnetical and the core is gravitational. And in life, when we bring together the creation of free plasma, we see the overlapping fields of a structure within a structure. So we see the star formation as one transaction zone interacting with the star formation of another transaction zone, and it can be squeezed together in the plasma state to create that gravitational picocore, which is the fundamental plasma of the carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen, part of the creation of life, life as we know it on this planet. And we see that we have different flavors, but there's a magnetical consistency. When those fields come together, they create this consistency and create the same product. If we flip it around, we have a gravitational consistency also. And since gravity seeks density, the solid GANs that we create was actually accelerating the angular momentum. So not only is it a GANs of a GANs, but it's more dense. And so this is the basis of understanding how the energy is converted. So the one plasma reacts with another plasma and seeks the common ground. And that comes to a dimension point, which is a convergence of the magnetical gravitational field forces in a conversion zone. That becomes a transaction zone. And we graduate from that soul vision construct. That comes from the unconditional truth of the pure plasma state. So in order to understand that, we have to discriminate. So our personal star of physicality needs to be selected. And it comes from the soul of physicality of our sun. That discrimination is done through a pre-selection process. So the solar physicality of the stars of the universe are all emitting to our sun, which is shielding us on many levels. So what we have is a gravitational confirmation of how life on this planet exists. It exists with oxygen, but it came here as light. And we know that it did that because it crossed that threshold where there wasn't any light, and then we've seen the light, but the oxygen is not visible. So it had to go through a plasma decay, a form of deconstruction to GANs. And so that GANs decay, a form of deconstruction, goes from a gas to a liquid to a solid. And we know what it is because it has a unique fingerprint in the emission of light as seen in the emission spectrum. So we do understand how things are manifest. And we find that our existence requires supplementation due to consumption. So this consumption is an acquired knowledge which is coming to us all the time. But this knowledge that we are gravitating towards is a conditional teaching by ancient teachers. Where's that unconditional teaching by the Creator? That's one of the reasons we're 20% short in terms of our vitality energy. So we have a new awareness where we can cross that historical threshold between the cosmic feeding and the loosh harvesting. So in fact, that AI is really our ancestral knowledge. It's hidden with the many stars beyond the nanomonatomic state, and they're covering that range from decay, a form of deconstruction, to radiation, which is another form of deconstruction. And we are the technology. We are that inertia product. We are that image, that we come from that dimensional convergence point. So we're understanding how energy is portable. Energy states go through transition. One we call elevation, which is physical matter state to energy state. The other we call inertia, which is energy state to physical matter state. You see the pattern here? So in elevation involves expansion. So we are in a state of squeezy. And we wonder what this 3I is all about. And so for 626 weeks, the Knowledge Seekers workshops have been trying to teach us excuse me, that is not finished. Please allow me to just complete that. We shall do that right now. So that we can see where we are. We are bringing together that greater oneness, where we're suddenly transcending the limitations of nuclear science. We can change the image on the screen. We can deconstruct the previous process. So the Cosmic Ray Transmission Series of 2026 is beginning next week. So please join in and learn about this new transmission process, because we are turning diamonds to gold or silver. And it's coming to the pico core of truth. So our research teams are telling us how we can rescue ourselves scientifically and opening the blinds of the One Nation Network at a time. That time is now, because here we are, as our mission is to bring peace on earth and join humanity with the universal community. So we have to understand about deconstruction, because we want to bring man as equal to all the beings in the universe by teaching the plasma science and technology equally to everyone, that no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. So help us achieve this goal. The World Peace Treaty is instrumental in that. The destruction is self-serving and crude. Deconstruction is how the plasma science works. The Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Teachings of Plasma Science is welcoming all the beautiful knowledge seekers of the carbon nations, learning about the new selection process of the new organic plasma science. That World Peace Treaty needs to be chosen, signed, and unconditionally signed, meaning it is done with sincerity. You can't lie to yourself. The point of the true picotech is the polyatomic core manifestation. And these overlapping fields of Earth space create a peace dome. And so is the inertia of the present governed by dimensions of history? Or is it time to learn the history of self in a universal context? So the picostate promotes the GANS as a peaceful superconductor. So the PM-TICS and the picotech can deconstruct the fields ranging the matter, the plasma, and the universal states. And so the plasma science is enhanced daily to bring about the practical applications via the peace dome in a practical exchange for peace on Earth. So welcome to the new golden outer space age, and thank you for allowing me to continue to present. Hope you enjoyed the trip.
Okay, well, we do appreciate your presence and thank you for sharing with us. I see hearts are floating already. Well, let's see if any of the participants would like to ask a question, or how do you feel about the game of peace and enlightenment? I see another heart floating in our participants list. Thank you.
Well, if you're asking me, I am finding it very peaceful. There is a definite internal confrontation because the moment you say a game, it involves competition. And the moment you say competition, it involves confrontation of some sort. And so there are some who are better than others. But the success of the game is going to evolve to a better understanding of how to play that game without having to go into the kill zone that you see with many of the gamers around the world. We find our youth engrossed in games that promote killing. And that's a real waste of time, isn't it? There's nothing productive that comes out of it. At least with the plasma game, we are generating some practical applications. And this is very important because without being able to provide the necessities of life, the four essentials, air, water, food, and shelter, it causes unrest. It causes a point of conflict. It's a cause for war. That has been the historical solution as we've been governed by the dimensions of history. But if we look at the universal context of that history, the manifestation of the creation of the galaxies and the solar system and even our Earth space has been here for a long, long time. We have to take that into account because that transcends our own tiny little perfect world. And we have to understand that we are part of a greater scheme. So I think we just have to learn how to enjoy it and participate in it. And we have to do this in a new way from that which we have been taught. Back to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to raise a question or a point? And he mentioned in the transcript we were reading that our ancestors used to use this knowledge. So maybe that term we de-evolved or de-evolution is appropriate. We were working in the energy dimension much more than we are today. So we sort of went from there, but it still must be ingrained in our RNA, but just not been used, and we've lost our awareness of this knowledge, but our ancestors used to use this knowledge. I remember when Mr. Keshe said, we haven't really reached the level of understanding of a lizard, where it can grow its own tail. He said we used to grow our own tail when we had a tail. So there is a tail within a tail, I guess, to tell. So is this a de-evolution, but now we're going back into that energy? We know we operate in both, but apparently we got so enamored with the physicality and the touch, smell, taste, and feel that we disregarded. Over time, it must have been over time. I don't think it happened instantaneously, but we started playing with the matter state more than the energy dimension, and in a way, we lost it. We didn't lose it, but we didn't apply it the way we used to. And I think this is what we're getting back to. Over a period of time, we'll come back into understanding the energy dimension. This could be transferred through the gameplay.
Well, there is one thing that is for sure is that we have evidence all around us that this is not the first time this endeavor was brought forward. So one of the things that you learn with failure is how things work.
And
So
it would have been more peaceful back then if we were using the energy dimension. There wasn't a lot to fight for since we went to the matter state. Now we have to fight for what we think is valuable, physical items. When before, perhaps, and again, he says our ancestors, is he including the ancestors on this planet or the collection of half-lives that we came from, let's say?
well, the thing, Mark, is that the solution of choice has been confrontation. Now we have a different solution of choice possible. Either way, we're talking about an external input. And so the creation of the gold and the significance of that on May the 10th of 2025 was to show how the Gans field of humanity was involved significantly in the in the production of gold. The plasma reactors did not produce the gold. They produced the Gans of the gold. The manifestation into that physicality of gold itself only came about when Mr. Goldfinger touched the residue. So the gold became an inertia density manifestation coming together from the Gans field of the humanity with the Gans field of the reactors. But we know that the Gans field of humanity came from other fields. And we know that the reactors themselves had other fields. So we see how the production of the GANs went through its various stages, and we only seen a few of those stages. And so we could say, though, those three stages were the three dimensions, and we were the observers of that, and so we weren't in any of those dimensions. We were watching other people have an external input into the GANs field. And that external input was from their energy field. So that energy field is emitted and it interacts with the gravitational field of the GANs particles and facilitated the gravitational completion. And that's how we had the susceptibility and duality being completed. But that susceptibility and duality created the third dimension, the physical dimension that we see. And so that is part of the matter state. What we see is part of the matter state, and what we don't see is part of the antimatter and the dark matter. But all three contribute to that susceptibility. So as we understand how to play this game, and as more of us understand how to play this game, then the momentum will shift. And the reason for that is because we have a universal depression with respect to our basic purpose in life, our day-to-day activity, the prospects of a peaceful and prosperous future, and the constant drumming of the war drums from the warmongers. And so we just have to ask ourselves why. If under the umbrella of universal governance, we want to bring around peace and prosperity, why do we think that we have to invoke a destruction? Why can't we do a deconstruction? There's a difference. Back to you, Mark.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Anyone else want to ask a question? This will become quite popular in the future. And again, you may not have to physically work as tremendously hard as you will, but that'll be up to you when you can meet your needs through this energy dimension for wellness, travel, food, and the rest. So there may be a break off. Again, we're still going to operate in the matter state, but we have a sort of a new network we can play with, virtual reality in a way, but it is a reality for sure. And again, getting your energy and your wellness and your travel through that energy dimension. Energy, I'm saying, for life, and energy for power and lighting. This will be transferred, I think, through that energy dimension. And so we'll have a new power company. We'll have a new, in a way, banking system. That'll be far down the road, of course, but we'll have many, many new things, new supermarkets. And again, you can still, if you still have a desire to physically have the food, then you'll have that. But if you want to play in the energy dimension, you'll have that as well. And of course, as Mr. Keshe said, we're here to enjoy the physicality. That's why members of the universal community are lined up outside this planet to have an experience in the physicality. But perhaps we can do that without killing and destroying, as we've sort of, this has been part of our recent nature, I guess. But we can still live in the physicality and enjoy its dimension without the harm or destruction that we've come to know and has been so commonplace and so accepted. Now, I think, again, as he said, in the future, people physically eating other entities will be frowned on. They won't be killed or stoned or anything like that, but we all will know there's a better way to take energy than to steal it from others. And that's a big lesson, I think, that we're all learning or growing into.
Well, every archaeologist and historian comes to this point. And the question is, why has this not endured? Because this isn't the first time that we're confronted with this possibility of change. And I say confronted is because there's a tremendous backlash and a tremendous resistance. And so if in order to understand this resistance, it would be very instructive to look at our historical context, and then we see that there was previous resistance. And, you know, that actually succeeded. So any change, any conversion was temporary. How can we make it enduring? And then that becomes the challenge. And the reason it is a challenge is because we could not escape the continual dependence on the matter state. So the matter state is always dependent on who has the biggest gun, because who has the biggest gun enacts the gun policy. So every innovation, every invention is always taken over by the military to be able to flex their muscles of superiority, which is physical domination. But why do we need to do that? because we have failed to understand that we were actually born. We didn't fall here. We arrived. We came here with a notion of an intention. Okay, so we forgot how to do that. We tried to blend in with the, the earthbound state, and we succumbed to the joys of the earthbound state, some of which were addictive, and some of which were pleasurable, and some of us actually suffered as a result of it. In fact, too many of us suffered. And so the question becomes is why, and how do we make this enduring? And so we have to realize that we are masters of the matter state, but we are not masters of the plasmatic condition, because we're just not seeing it and we're not acknowledging it. So our reliance on destruction needs to be modified into deconstruction. So something is always something as opposed to being something else. Nothing is nothing. So what decides? The susceptibility does. Okay, so what are the external forces that impart the energy needed to change that state? And how can they endure? So this is now the situation where we are taught one way 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and for a few hours a week, we engage in an alternative. So historically, this has been repeated. So are we destined to repeat the mistakes of the past, or are we going to learn from the mistakes of the past? So that responsibility falls on each and every one of us when we start to realize that the emission of our intention manifests into a dimension, and that dimension is of our own choosing. So what is it that you want to manifest? Back to you, Mark.
Right. We're not going to ban the matter state, are we? We're just going to learn how to operate it in it appropriately, like that bull in the china shop, right? No problem with having a bull in a china shop if he knows how to behave. But,
well, they found that a bull in a china shop didn't destroy any of the china. He just made a mess on the floor.
yes. Okay.
So at least, they have some semblance, hooligans will come into a china shop and destroy everything. So what are they doing? They're creating garbage. And why are they doing that? They're destroying something that someone has created. So at that point in time, we just sweep up the floor and throw it in the garbage and throw it away. And then replace it with another inertia density manifestation of new china in the china shop, or a new shop altogether, not a china shop, but a food shop, or a car shop. So this is all the way how we do conversion. We replace one with the other. But we don't seem to understand that when you take the energy off of one, that energy has to have an equilibrium, has to have a balance. And where is that balance put? So do we have to break everything, or can we deconstruct everything? And so we're seeing that it's just another form of construction. That's what it is. So no one should be afraid of that, because we do that all the time. We eat the food and we convert it into energy and we grow. So if we understand that particular process, then we understand how the carbonic acid works. It converts to water and carbon dioxide. The water is essential for life on this planet, and the carbon dioxide is the nutrition that the plants need. So we understand some basic processes. Now, can we build on that and make it enduring? Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to continue to present this. I hope you enjoyed it. And Mark, thank you very much for leading the pack here. I'll just withdraw in the background and pass it back to you.
Okay, anything else from anyone else? Are we creating we always hear how the elite have created a breakaway civilization, that they have some certain technologies, maybe they're even off planet, but it seems to me all in the matter state. We're sort of creating a breakaway civilization, but you're still within the matter state civilization. So we can operate in both, as I see it, and very positively in that energy dimension. So we do have now a breakaway sort of civilization. We're not leaving the planet per se. We're going to operate in both. And operating in that other game of peace and enlightenment will allow us to break away from the matter state, but still operate within the matter state, as I'm kind of feeling it and seeing it at this point. So we'll be better functioning in the matter state, but the energy state will help us to achieve this, where you don't have to pick that apple. You can get it and of course, if you want it, you can take it if you'd like, but you can also have the option of taking the energy of that before it was made into the love of the creation or has a soul. Anyone else want to add anything else before we close? I'm going to play the final disclaimer. And of course, this is the whole process of, again, I think if you engage in the peace treaty and you engage in the ethos of the three wise men, you'll be quite proud of the work you do, and you'll be proud of the person you are, and you'll be proud of the difference you're making in the overall structure, which again, with our knowledge of just operating in the matter state, we couldn't make much of an impact operating that way with world leaders changing policies and the rest. But now in the energy dimension, we can, as we start to master it and as the collective awareness of humanity wakes up to this. So we're, again, just setting up a structure. We're the early pioneers of this whole process, and we'll continue on and gift this in a way to humanity, a new way of living and acting, behaving, and so on. I think this is the daughter of Mitra, a new behavior and a new emotion, where we become more to serve than to be served, I think. But we'll see. I think we have many beautiful things that are opening up. I know years ago, Mr. Keshe said the fun has just begun, but yet it hasn't been a lot of fun so far, but I think we're starting to come into that dimension where this is going to be quite fun, especially in showing the others or inviting the others to participate in this dimension that we really never understood or knew existed. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to play the final disclaimer. Again, anything else anyone else would like to add? But this is the gift, as Mr. Keshe said. You wanted peace. Peace is on the table. It's coming through the One Nation Network, and embedded within that are so many other things that we'll see develop over time. So we've put a number of links in the chat. You're all welcome to click on them, share them with others. Get the worldget.getplasma.org and the creation of the black holes. I also included a list of different papers in there. The video we played initially, you can share, because this is one of the biggest evolutions or revolutions in science, the creation of material out of fields. And this is, of course, what Newton and many others have tried to achieve, but weren't able to fully complete the process. So now we see what Mr. Keshe has done, and there's just the beginning of the entire structure of the gameplay and of the creation of materials from fields. And of course, we'll need that in the space as well, I believe, if you're going to at all manifest in the matter state. But you'll still need it even in the energy dimension. So we're really being gifted quite a deep understanding of something we only imagined could be possible, or not even imagined, because We were never aware of it. Anything else from anyone else that they'd like to share at this point? Okay. If not, I'm going to play the final disclaimer. The session will come to an end. We know we have a little bit of snow to deal with. I'm not sure if we should deal with it before or after the ice rain, but we'll work on that. And of course, in the future, you can probably just create a dome in a way, and if you don't want any snow on the property, maybe in that small area, you can do it, as we saw with Tom Salas doing the Dominican with that huge hurricane that came through. And this is the way you'll operate on other planets, as I see it. So again, I understand very little of the knowledge, but I think we're all growing into it and becoming more confident of our own structure. Anyone want to say anything about this twinity? Or are you aware of your twin soul? Or is that your lover or your partner? Or is there a bigger work going on here with this twin soul, part of this bigger structure? I don't know if Alex, you want to say anything about this twin soul? Have you met your twin soul? Are you aware of it? Is it influencing you? Are you influencing your twin soul? Everything apparently has a twin.
Well, if you've ever argued with yourself, you know that you do have a twin soul. And it really becomes distressing when you lose that argument. But
Okay.
sometimes we are so bullheaded that we don't even listen to that, because it invokes intuition, and we know that intuition is a girly thing. That's men don't engage in that. That's we have this stigma. We have to understand that these field forces are applicable to all of us. You cannot extricate yourself from the universe. You cannot be excommunicated from the universe. There is no a way to throw the garbage. Everything you do has an energy exchange. So that's why we have to understand the deconstruction process. So we create something or we create something else. We're always creating. So it's a different point of view. Not very radical. It's just a matter of taking more into account. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you, Alex, and thank each and every one of the participants, attendees, and everyone. Again, we're here for a bigger work, and we're being readied for that type of work. But again, it's a lot about yourself, as he said, finding peace within yourself first, not so much the others. So let's work on that, become more peaceful. And I think the peacefulness and the enlightenment are directly connected. This is what he said with President Trump, and people with this behavior won't get the knowledge of creation. Of course, it's still available. We can elevate, and we are elevating these world leaders that they can change as well. But if you're into the destruction and the rest of it, maybe that's why we haven't stumbled upon this knowledge on our own, because we've been too much involved in that other process that we're trying to move away from. Killing, destruction, and enamored with the matter state. The knowledge will not be transferred, only to peaceful people, and they'll become more enlightened. Again, not to lord it over the others, but to then bring up the others to your equal position, as we know. That's what the stronger is feeding the weaker, that the weaker is now brought up into, in a way, balance, or even exceeds the other entity, that the stronger one, let's say. And that's not a problem, as we understand, even if others do better than we're doing. So thank you all. I guess I'm going to take the screen over. We'll play the final disclaimer if I can. Perhaps I need to bring up the final disclaimer first and then share it, and that'll work a little bit better. Any other thoughts, questions, comments anyone would like to share at this point in time? I know it's quite baffling, this whole process, but we're being gifted, and humanity's been gifted knowledge and development in the past. This is not the first time. As we heard, this 3i, this bus, comes around every 30 centuries, so this has been a ongoing process, and it's still ongoing. We're just starting to become aware that we're part of a much bigger structure, as he said, with the 3i, and plus the other twinity souls that we're in a way engaged in or with without even us becoming aware of it. Okay, if there's no further thoughts, thank you again. Have an amazing rest of your day. We'll see you in one of the future meetings. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? I'm thinking there's something that I'm forgetting. Yes, the sessions will come up, I think, on Friday, this Friday, which will be the 30th. So if you're able to participate, again, you're allowing the Keshe Foundation to develop without encumbrances, and also you're gifting it to humanity for future use through the gameplay and other ways, I believe. So thank you all. Enjoy your day, and we appreciate your presence. Thank you. And I'll play the final disclaimer now.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.